Chapter 438. I won. Bordered Soil gasped for breath, and when he thought of Black Zetsu's last roar, he couldn't help but blush. When he heard those words, he was really angry, but the effect of resistance was minimal. Only when he heard the last sentence, he was really angry. "Rin, thank you for saving me again." Just as he was thinking this, he suddenly felt a wave of pain. Bordered Soil looked down at his lower abdomen. Because of the transplantation of Hashirama's cells, his self-healing speed was very fast, and the hole in his lower abdomen had already formed granulation. Black Zetsu. Bordered Soil looked a little sad. He had been with Black Zetsu for 8 years, and it was inevitable that he would be touched. Moreover, Madara saved his life and guided him. If it weren't for this accident, he wouldn't have thought of betraying Madara. In a sense, he had completed 3 betrayals. Betraying Woodleaf, betraying Akatsuki, and betraying Madara. Betraying 3 clans? Bordered Soil shook his head and abandoned these messy thoughts. Rin needs the power of the Sanbai to resurrect, but the Sanbai has been handed over by Black Zetsu to Yahiko for the experiment of Geto Mazo's eyes. There are 2 ways to get the Sanbai back. The first way is to get it back through the Akatsuki, but the problem is that without Aizen, it's difficult to gain their trust. But I can also think of another way, such as using Aizen as a hostage in exchange for the Sanbai. Thinking of this, Bordered Soil felt a headache. From the result, it seems that he captured Aizen, but that guy is as strong as a monster, and he may capture him at the moment of release. Bordered Soil clenched his fists. Sure enough. Is there only one way? Return to Woodleaf, ask Senpai to capture Aizen, and then use Aizen to exchange for the Sanbai. If he could, he didn't want to return to Woodleaf. Or he didn't want to return to Woodleaf. But when it comes to Rin's resurrection, even if he has a thick face, he has to accept it. It's just a pity for Shisui. Thinking of his younger brother who had been miserably cheated by him, Obito's face showed a trace of shame. He had just abducted someone to betray him, but in just a few days, he went back by himself. Wasn't this the same as pushing him to his death? Well, I have to face it, I'm going to tell Shisui now. Bordered Soil clutched his lower abdomen, and walked to the room where Shisui's resting. However, what Obito didn't notice was that deep within his body, a drop of black sludge was lurking. Black Mud opened his beady eyes and sneered. "You've been schemed against so many times and you still haven't made any progress. He's SSSSS, SSSSS, IZZZZZZZZZZ, he SSSS. ZSSSS, SSSSSSS, SSSS, his. It's fine facing ordinary people, but facing Shimizu Garashi, he can't guarantee that he won't reveal any flaws. So, letting Bordered Soil follow his own will is the best choice. Enjoy your last moments." Black Zetsu whispered and turned back into Black Mud. At this moment, Shisui was anxious. "I might have been recognized at the end, I won't bring trouble to the clan, will I? But my undercover mission was arranged by Garashi-sama, he should have explained it to me, right?" Thinking of being undercover, Shisui felt discouraged. He finally infiltrated the Akatsuki's organization, but the person who lured him and betrayed him, what's this? He can only hope that they have a backup plan, such as transforming into Aizen to temporarily fool them. At this time, the door opened. A figure staggered into the room. Shisui was about to speak, but then he froze. There's such a big hole in his stomach, and he's pretending like nothing happened. Is this performance art? Bordered Soil didn't know how his younger brother was thinking about him, he just blushed. "Shisui, I've thought about it seriously, and I've decided to return to Woodleaf. Do you want to go back with me?" Shisui looked at Bordered Soil speechlessly. He tried so hard to get him to defect, and after defecting, he wanted him to go back. Was his brain kicked by a donkey? But considering Bordered Soil's brother's revenge on society, he thought it was understandable that his brain had been kicked by a donkey. "Fortunately, I'm a fake betrayal, otherwise I would have been killed by him." Land of Iron, the 5 Kages conference was still ongoing. Hearing Garashi say that his clone was already there, everyone reluctantly let go of their worries and aimed at someone. Naruto-sama, shouldn't you give us a good explanation? Raza asked coldly. As a Kage, you actually colluded with an evil organization like the Akatsuki. I have reason to think that you are no longer suitable for this identity. Empress, show me, I said. Kitsuchi and they didn't speak, but their cold eyes have already explained everything. What do you juniors know? This old man endured humiliation and cooperated with them for the sake of the shinobi world's peace. Danzo coldly snorted. Besides, if this old man really cooperated with them, I wouldn't have been humiliated like that 4 years ago. Kitsuchi couldn't help but say, I think it's because you were captured 4 years ago that you were released on the condition of cooperation, right? Danzo disdainfully turned his head, ignorant. While speaking, he glanced at Garashi's direction from the corner of his eyes. He knew very well that the one who can really decide all of this is Shimizu Garashi's idea. As long as Shimizu Garashi doesn't touch him, no one can take away his position as Naruto. Seeing Danzo looking at him, Garashi said in a deep voice, save some face for the name of Naruto, and withdraw yourself. Danzo's heart suddenly turned cold, but he still forced himself to say, are you kidding me? Why should I listen to you? Take my genjutsu, as long as you can survive, I won't express my opinion on this matter. But correspondingly, if you fail, take the initiative to resign from the position of Naruto. The other 4 Kages looked at him in surprise. Garashi, you, not giving him a chance to go back on his words, Danzo quickly agreed, okay, this is what you said. Garashi nodded, I said it. Danzo was full of confidence, then come. Garashi began to make hand seals, 1 second, 2 seconds. Seeing this situation, Danzo's forehead couldn't help but exude fine beads of sweat. With Shimizu Garashi's ability to make hand seals, and such a complicated one, how terrible is this genjutsu? 20 seconds later, the genjutsu was finally completed. Garashi exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, eternal samsara. The next moment, the scene in front of Danzo changed. It was the scene of Naidame Hokage giving his last words. Oh, this genjutsu again. Danzo sneered in his heart, but suddenly, the memory in his mind blurred. What's wrong with me? Am I not in the middle of the 5 Kages tournament? Hiruzen bumped him with his shoulder. Danzo, what's wrong with you? Come back to your senses. Danzo looked up and saw Hiruzen and the others looking at him. He couldn't help but say, by the way, Hiruzen-sama is leaving his will. How can I be distracted? Danzo blamed himself in his heart and hurriedly listened with a serious attitude. Chapter 439. We have been surrounded by the enemy. Naidame said in a deep voice. There are only 7 of us here, it's really difficult to deal with them. Don't say such discouraging words, we'll just fight them. Everyone was filled with righteous indignation, only Danzo had a strange expression on his face. Why did he feel like he had heard similar words twice before? In this situation, someone must be the bait. Danzo subconsciously wanted to recommend himself, but for some reason, a scene suddenly appeared in his mind. After he recommended himself, Naidame patted him on the shoulder with a kind face. Okay, go ahead and die, I'll be the Naruto monkey. When Danzo wanted to speak again, he heard Hiruzen say, I'll be the bait. Damn it, I really lost to him. Danzo felt discouraged. With Naidame's character, he will definitely be the bait himself. This is clearly a test, I obviously guessed it, but I still can't do it. Sure enough, Naidame said in a deep voice, of course, the one who will be the bait is me. You young heirs of the will of fire still have a long way to go. Next, you must protect the village well and train the children who can be entrusted to the next generation. Danzo, from tomorrow onwards, you will be Naruto. Danzo was still complaining about himself, but when he heard the news, he couldn't believe it. Naruto, it's me? Naidame nodded seriously. I can see that you were planning to sacrifice yourself at the first moment. This is courage. After you made the decision, you hesitated, showing that you saw through my intention to test you. This is wisdom. After Sarutobi recommended himself, you decisively gave up your previous idea. This is righteousness. With these 3, you are definitely the best candidate to be Naruto. Danzo was stunned, so that's what I thought. Hiruzen congratulated him. Danzo, congratulations. The others were full of worship. Danzo, you are absolutely worthy of being Naruto. Danzo barely restrained his ecstasy and said, I will lead Woodleaf to the top. After the death of Nidame Naruto, he not only brought Woodleaf out of danger, but also worked hard to defeat the 4 great shinobi villages one by one in 20 years, and finally completed the feat of unification. At the celebration party. Fortunately, Nidame-sama didn't choose me back then. Hiruzen said, compared to you, Danzo, I'm too far behind. The other 4 shadows that had been subdued by him were constantly praising him. The shinobi world is really lucky to have Naruto-sama. You're still calling me Lord Naruto? Danzo-sama's achievements are not something that can be described by a mere Naruto. Then what should it be called? The God of Ninjas, of course. Ha 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 ha. Danzo was laughing loudly, but when he heard the title, he felt as if he had eaten a fly. Ryoma, who was observing the situation, asked, Naruto-sama, is there a problem? Tell them not to use the God of Ninjas title. Although I don't know why, it's disgusting. Danzo said with a look of disgust. Then how about the Light of Woodleaf? Ryoma asked tentatively. Danzo, another 30 years passed, and he didn't die, but he was reborn for the second time. Lying on the hospital bed, Danzo felt his vision blur, and the scene in front of him turned into the most vivid memory in his mind. Someone must be the bait. Hearing this familiar voice, Danzo suddenly realized, am I reborn? Well, I still have some regrets in my previous life. At this time, Hiruzen said, I will be the bait. Danzo was shocked, oh no, I forgot to show my self-sacrifice. History is about to be rewritten. Just when he was confused, he suddenly heard Nidame announce the last sentence. Danzo, starting tomorrow, you are Naruto. Danzo pointed at himself in disbelief, huh? Or me? Another magnificent life. When Danzo closed his eyes and opened them again, it was already the 3rd reincarnation. Danzo, starting tomorrow, you are Naruto. Danzo was secretly excited, I thought it was Naruto's destiny. Watch me create more glory. The 5th reincarnation. Danzo frowned slightly, feeling a little bored. The 10th reincarnation. He was beginning to get tired. The 20th reincarnation. He took the initiative to resign from Naruto. Finally, I can take a break. Danzo happily squatted in the toilet, but the next moment, the toilet door was pushed open. Everyone, led by Hiruzen, knelt on one knee. Naruto, please return. The 50th reincarnation. Danzo directly changed his name. I've worked hard for 50 lifetimes for Woodleaf, what's wrong with enjoying it? Danzo comforted himself. He wanted to learn how to enjoy life in this life, and he wanted to start by finding a woman. On the wedding night, Danzo suppressed his youthful mentality and lifted the bride's veil, and suddenly he was frightened and took 4 or 5 steps back. The person who appeared in front of him was Hiruzen. Then, the bride led the others who suddenly appeared in the wedding room and knelt on one knee. Naruto, please return. Danzo clutched his chest and spat out a mouthful of blood. The 100th reincarnation. Danzo, starting tomorrow, you are Naruto, ugh. Danzo's whole body twitched, and he madly vomited, don't mention that word, it makes me sick. The 200th reincarnation. Danzo, starting tomorrow, damn it, I've tolerated you for a long time. Danzo angrily shouted and hit the Nidame's head. The Nidame was stunned, then looked at Danzo and praised, you dare hit me, this is a feeling I've never felt before, Naruto is you. Ugh. The 500th reincarnation. Danzo, starting tomorrow, Danzo was frantic, I'm the one who led the enemy here, I'm a traitor, kill me. However, Hiruzen was moved, in order to use yourself as bait, Danzo, you didn't hesitate to slander yourself. The others were also moved to tears, you're indeed the kindest among us, Danzo. The Nidame was gratified, Naruto's position, it really belongs to you. The 1000th reincarnation. Danzo, starting, haha. Danzo's eyes were dull, and he directly cut his abdomen with a kunai. After countless reincarnations, Danzo opened his eyes full of vicissitudes. Seeing that Danzo wasn't controlled and didn't faint, Ryoma excitedly said, "It's Naruto-sama's victory, ugh." Danzo's body trembled, and then he madly vomited. Ryoma was shocked. "Naruto-sama, how did you?" Danzo knelt on the ground and shouted while vomiting, Don't mention that word." "What word?" Ryoma asked tentatively. "Naruto, ugh." Danzo vomited even more. "Never mention that word to me again." What the hell happened? The surrounding people were curious, but at the same time, they were scared. Danzo's pursuit of Naruto was obvious to all, but what was the result? After experiencing the genjutsu, it was like he was a different person, too terrible. Chapter 440. Although Danzo said not to mention those two words again, the other shinobi didn't want to spoil him. "Naruto-sama, are you okay? Naruto-sama, do you want to eat something? Naruto-sama, why are you looking at me like that? Naruto-sama is so handsome. Naruto-sama is so great." Danzo trembled every time he heard those words, and the more he trembled, the faster he trembled, and finally, he fell to the ground, foaming at the mouth. Seeing Danzo like this, Ryuma hurriedly picked him up, barely suppressing his anger, and asked, "Shimizu Garashi, what did you do to Naruto?" Even though he was unconscious, Danzo still twitched when he heard those two words. Ryuma's eyes twitched, and he quickly changed his words. "What did I do to Danzo-sama? I didn't do anything to him, I just felt that Shimura Danzo wasn't careful enough when it came to being Hokage, so I deliberately let Shimura Danzo experience the life of Hokage many times in the genjutsu." Shueisha said casually. Everyone was a little confused. "Isn't this good? Well, isn't this in line with Danzo-sama's idea? Why did it become like this?" A asked in confusion. Hearing A asking the question in his heart, Ryuma also looked at him. Garashi chuckled softly. "Maybe it's because he experienced more." "More? How much is that?" Ryuma couldn't help but ask. "Who knows? It's probably a few thousand lives." After saying that, Garashi added, "In order to satisfy Danzo's fantasy, I deliberately set the genjutsu so that no matter what choice he makes, he will eventually return to the path of becoming Naruto." Thousands of lives? And all of them must become Naruto. Everyone's scalp tingled. No matter how much you like to eat food, you will get tired of eating it continuously for several months. Danzo, on the other hand, was forced to be Naruto thousands of times. Even if this has always been his wish, he will still be driven crazy by this horrible experience. In fact, they even began to admire Danzo for not having a mental breakdown. That night, in the ruins of the Uchiha clan, the underground meeting place of the Naka shrine, there weren't many people participating in the gathering, only 20 or so, but all of them were core members of the Uchiha clan. At this moment, the core figures were either talking fiercely, looking solemn, or hesitant. It seemed that they were at an important stage that would decide their fate. "What are you hesitating for? Are you going to wait for someone else to grab the knife before making a move? What kind of person is Naruto? I don't need to explain to you what kind of person he is. 4 years ago, he dared to make a move against the Hyuga, and tomorrow, he will dare to make a move against the Uchiha. Maybe you still have hope in Garashi-sama, thinking that he will make a move like he did 4 years ago, but don't forget that the bordered soil and Shursui who were exposed today are both members of the Uchiha clan. Especially when the bordered soil is suspected of manipulating the Kyuubi's chaos, it is even more impossible for him to help us. The situation of the Uchiha clan has reached the point of destruction. If we don't change it, we must launch a coup d'état." The radicals had the largest number of people, accounting for more than 2/3 of the people present. Obviously, a large part of this is the credit of Naruto. Under their encouragement, the rest of the people were also a little moved. Fugaku sat at the head of the table and thought seriously. The long-suppressed dissatisfaction in the clan all broke out at this moment, and the bordered soil and Shursui incident was just a fuse. It can be said that the coup d'état is the general trend of the Uchiha clan. The radicals continue to clamor, "You should know how bad Naruto's popularity in the Woodleaf clan is. If we launch a coup d'état, maybe not even 1/10 of the people will be willing to help him." And Patriarch, 4 years ago at the 5 Kage tournament, the ability used to stop Shimizu Garashi is the ability called Susanoo that Patriarch used today. I didn't expect Patriarch to have the power to compete with Shimizu Garashi. Fugaku woke up from his daze and hurriedly denied. I'm not, don't talk nonsense." However, everyone laughed. "Patriarch, you're being modest again. Really, you're still hiding your strength in front of us." Fugaku frowned. No one believes him when he speaks the truth. Shursui revealed last time that he has opened the Manjiki Sharingan, and Itachi seems to have opened the Manjiki Sharingan today, so we have 3 people on the same level as Garashi-sama. With such power, why should we listen to an incompetent person like Danzo? Just because Nidaime Naruto is biased against Madara, we should be treated differently? I've had enough of this kind of thing. Seeing the emotions of the remaining people were also stirred up, Fugaku had a headache and gently pressed his temples. He didn't oppose the coup d'état. The people who support Garashi have long wanted to overthrow Danzo, but they didn't want to leave a stain on Garashi's reputation. He just took advantage of this coup d'état to express his goodwill to them. What he was really worried about was the change in the mood of the clansmen. They're usually suppressed too much, but once they're released, they may go to the other extreme. Just like what they're showing now, they seem to be a little too fanatical. This is just the discussion stage. If the coup d'état succeeds and overthrows Danzo's rule, he's worried that the clansmen will be blinded by victory and blindly believe that they are the masters of the Woodleaf clan. This is a hidden danger that he can't ignore. Just as Fugaku was worried and tangled, Itachi came in with a happy face. Fugaku was a little surprised that his son, who has always been calm, would have such an unstable side. "Itachi, what's the matter?" Itachi took a deep breath, calmed down, and said, "According to the news from the 5 Kages tournament, Danzo is no longer Naruto." "What? That bastard is finally going to step down." Fugaku didn't forget to ask, "What's going on?" It's said that Danzo is colluding with the Akatsuki, and Garashi-sama has finally decided to take action. Itachi said. "Colluding with the Akatsuki, if it's Danzo, then it's not surprising." Fugaku nodded slightly, and immediately smiled. The one who should succeed Naruto's position should be Garashi-sama, and with Garashi-sama's character, our Uchiha will no longer be suppressed, and our days will finally be better. Then the coup d'état is cancelled. However, the people from the radical faction looked embarrassed. They looked at each other and did not say anything. Looking at their performance, Fugaku suddenly had a bad premonition in his heart. He won't be cheated again, right? Fugaku asked, "What's wrong with you?" The leader of the radicals stood up and said embarrassedly, "Because we were worried that Patriarch wouldn't agree to the coup d'état, we decided to act first and report later, and have already spread the news of the coup d'état in the clan. It's impossible to reverse the situation now." Chapter 441. I think we can still try to save it. Fugaku struggled. "It's too late." A radical shook his head. "We have already made arrangements in various clans and key places. Even if we are willing to stop, we will definitely be reported afterwards." Fugaku felt that it was difficult to breathe. Danzo was just forcing him, but these bastards wanted him dead. Seeing this, the radicals tried to persuade, "Even if it's that Garashi-sama, we still have the power to fight him. Besides, Garashi-sama can even tolerate Danzo, so why can't he tolerate our coup? As long as Patriarch pleads for mercy, even if we fail, we can be forgiven." Looking at the light in their eyes and the fanatical look on their faces, Fugaku felt cold. He understood that it's not that they can't stop it, but that they don't want to stop it. After the beast in their heart is released, it will be difficult to return to the cage. They are crazy. Fugaku sighed in his heart. Their real confidence is that Garashi is easy to talk to and won't kill people? Isn't this bullying the honest people? Itachi looked on coldly. even his father couldn't persuade them, let alone him. With Garashi-sama's generosity, maybe he won't care about their actions, but his position determines that he can't do things according to his own preferences. If the betrayal is not punished, it will be encouraging everyone to betray. Even if it's for the stability of the village, Garashi-sama will never do this. They are leading the Uchiha into the abyss. Seeing that everyone was still persuading him, Fugaku took a deep breath. You are right, the arrow is already on the bow. Seeing that their patriarch was persuaded, everyone became more and more excited, as if the revival of the Uchiha was within reach. Fugaku asked seriously, what do you want me to do? Seeing that Fugaku no longer insisted, everyone began to talk. Didn't Itachi contract the same kind of summoned beast as Shisui? Let those crows send us a letter. Let's win Shisui over first, and then try to win bordered soil over. It's okay to win Shisui, but what the hell is bordered soil? He is suspected to be the one who manipulated the Kyuubi's rebellion. It's already a coup d'état. Why do you care so much? That Garashi-sama's popularity is not something that Danzo can compare to. Under his rule, a coup d'état is equivalent to going against the entire village. Of course, we have to gather as much strength as possible. Hiss. Why don't we stop the coup? What are you talking about? Do you think it's too late to stop now? But you also said that Garashi-sama's popularity is not comparable to Danzo's. Even if we win, it's impossible to convince everyone, right? Of course I know it's impossible, but we can flex our muscles and take back the benefits we deserve. Is it really possible, a motley crew? Fugaku thought to himself as he watched the messy crowd bickering with each other. Where did they get the confidence to think that the coup would succeed? With 3.5 pairs of Mangekyo? Yes, according to the records of the clan, the last person who had a Mangekyo was Uchiha Madara, and Madara was comparable to the first Naruto. Garashi-sama is regarded as the first Naruto. With this conversion, it's inevitable that they will misunderstand. Fugaku sighed. He didn't want to expose his Mangekyo before for this reason. He was worried that the clan would be confused by the records of the Mangekyo. This time, it's even worse. 3.5 pairs of Mangekyo appeared at once. Okay, quiet down. Fugaku clapped his hands and motioned everyone to be quiet. I will let Itachi contact Shisui. As for the coup, you should come up with a plan as soon as possible. If we delay for too long, the news may leak out. Yes. Everyone responded in unison, and then walked out of the shrine and carefully returned to their homes under the cover of the night. Because the house was destroyed in the battle during the day, Fugaku and Itachi could only live in a temporary wooden house. Mikoto was hospitalized because of her injuries, and Sasuke was also in the hospital because of the shock. So, there were only 2 of them in the wooden house. After a moment of silence, Itachi asked, Father, is there really no way to stop them? Fugaku shook his head slightly. Without seeing the real hell, they won't understand what they are doing now. Itachi's eyelids drooped as he thought to himself, hell? Seeing that Itachi was silent, Fugaku said in a deep voice, in short, you don't have to participate in this matter anymore. I will find a way to solve it. On the way back to the room, the father and son didn't speak, but they both had the same thought in their mind. If we want to save the Uchiha clan, we have to kill them before the coup is launched. We have to turn the Uchiha clan from sinners to victims. But, someone must bear all the sins. Of course, it's impossible to kill all of them, but even if only a part of them were killed, it's definitely a big case. Moreover, these people must not be put on the Hokage-sama's account. Thinking of this, the father and son made a decision in their hearts. Let me be the one who bears all the sins. 2 days later, at the entrance of Woodleaf Village. Thousands of people spontaneously gathered here with happy and yearning smiles on their faces. Those who are a little more well-informed already know about the changes that happened at the 5 Kages tournament and that Naruto-sama is going to resign. Although it hasn't been confirmed who the next Naruto will be, everyone has a guess in their hearts and gathered here because of this guess. A large part of the people here are young ninjas who support and admire Garashi. They have long been fed up with Naruto's stupidity and are eager to be led by Garashi. Danzo is good at scheming and infighting. But when it comes to recuperation and development, he really can't. In addition to them, there are also some people who have fled from all over the ninja world. They are very unfamiliar with Garashi, but their enthusiasm for the possibility of Garashi succeeding Naruto is no less than others. In this chaotic era, only strong enough strength can make people feel at ease, and among those strong people, no one can make people feel more at ease than Garashi, who has the title of the god of ninja. So, of course, they will cheer for Garashi's return. Listening to the cheers around, Kurenai proudly puffed out her chest. This is what it means to be popular. Garashi is really the most suitable person to become Naruto. Shizen nodded vigorously, and her tone was full of pride. I knew that Garashi will return with everyone's hope and cheers. Asuma was quite emotional. 7 years. Garashi is finally coming back, and he's coming back as Naruto. Even Kakashi, who looked a little decadent because of the bordered soil incident, couldn't hold back his excitement at this moment. Senpai is coming back. Chapter 442. In the crowd, Anko said with her hands on her hips. When Senpai comes back, remember to cheer loudly to let Senpai see our sincerity. Do you understand? Iruka waved his fist vigorously. Don't worry, Nya-san. I won't stop even if I lose my voice. He would never forget that night 7 years ago. It was Senpai who saved his mother. Heiei Gecko coughed twice, his pale face flushed with excitement. I will work hard too. Kamizuki Chumo rolled her eyes. Forget about your body. Don't faint. Hey, how long are you two going to watch? In the other direction, Niji held Naruto and asked with a red face. Naruto rode on his shoulder and grabbed his hair to keep balance. Soon, I think I can see the figure. Sasuke, who was riding on Naruto's shoulder in the same posture, said. Niji, don't shake. How can I watch? Easy for you to say. Niji gritted his teeth. The people below are not you. Naruto said. Hold on a little longer. Think of Garashi-sama's signature photo. Won't that be more motivating? Niji gritted his teeth. Can you really get Garashi-sama's signature photo? Of course, my parents are very familiar with Garashi-sama. Naruto said with some melancholy. Only yesterday did he know that he was born as a Kage's second generation. It's a pity that his family has fallen. At this time, the crowd suddenly became restless. Wow! It's Garashi-sama. Let me see. By the way, which one is Garashi-sama? Of course, it's the most beautiful one. Oh, now that you mention it, I understand. Amidst the crowd, Ning-ji, who was already unstable, was pushed by someone and fell to the ground. Although Naruto sat on his head and didn't step on him, there were still many footprints left on his butt. Hinata looked at the side. Niji is so pitiful. It's really wrong to sell your body for a photo. Outside the village, looking at the cheerful smiling faces in front of him, Danzo, who was walking side by side with Garashi, couldn't help but feel jealous. Why didn't he receive such treatment when he was it because this brat was good-looking? Garashi's gentle voice spread out, and as if there was some kind of invisible power that calmed down the restless crowd, I know that in everyone's heart there may be some fear for the future, so you have such high expectations for me, although my ability is limited, but I will certainly respond to your expectations, so that the people of Akatsuki organization will never dare to step into Woodleaf again. It wasn't a shocking speech, but it was what most people wanted to hear. Naruto was the one who could protect the village in times of crisis. For a moment, everyone cheered and jumped for joy. Danzo, who was watching from the side, couldn't help but grumble, this old man hasn't abdicated yet, and this bastard already thinks he's Naruto. At this moment, the crowd cheered. Garashi-sama, please be our Kage. Because Danzo hasn't officially resigned yet, everyone was relatively restrained before, but as soon as this sentence came out, it was like a chain reaction, instantly causing a tsunami of cheers. Be Naruto, Garashi-sama. We have been waiting for a Naruto like you for a long time. When Danzo heard the word Kage, he knew it was bad, and before he could seal his five senses, the demonic sound entered his ears. Because there were too many sounds mixed in, Danzo vomited until the sky turned dark, and the sun and moon dimmed. It was as if he was vomiting blood. Everyone was shocked by the scene in front of them, and even their cheers were subconsciously lowered. After a long while, the sound of people gasping could be heard from the crowd. Danzo-sama is really ruthless. In order to interrupt our support for Garashi-sama, he didn't hesitate to harm himself. I've seen people vomiting blood, but I've never seen someone vomiting self-harm. Although they knew that Danzo was going to abdicate, they didn't understand some of the details. Even Sandaime was shocked. I didn't expect Danzo's obsession with Naruto to be this abnormal. Garashi stepped forward to check Danzo's condition, then said to the crowd. Thank you for your welcome, but Naruto-sama seems to be a little weak. I will send him to the hospital first. Naturally, no one dared to stop him, but since the main character of the welcome ceremony is gone, there's no point for them to stay. In this way, the grand welcome ceremony ended because of Danzo's interference. The land of fire, far away from Woodleaf, on a mountain peak, one can vaguely see some scenes. As expected of Senpai, even after 7 years, he hasn't been forgotten, and even returned like a king. Obito said enviously, and then laughed at himself. If it were me, I would be like a rat on the street, hated by everyone. Isn't it your fault? Shisui rolled his eyes. He still can't understand why his elder brother betrayed the village. Moreover, he even betrayed his master. There should be no turning back. So why did he change his position so soon after his identity was exposed? Shisui shook his head slightly, giving up the idea of analyzing Bordered Soil's thoughts, and said in a deep voice, Itachi contacted me today. He said that the Uchiha clan is planning to launch a coup, and they hope that the two of us can join them. Coup? Bordered Soil was surprised, and then nodded thoughtfully. It should be because our identity was exposed, and they were worried that Danzo would use it as a pretext to make a fuss, so they decided not to endure anymore, right? However, now that they know that Senpai is going to be Naruto, they shouldn't be planning a coup, right? Shisui sighed. They already knew about this. Bordered Soil's eyes widened. Are they crazy? When Danzo became Naruto, there wasn't a coup, but Senpai is going to be Naruto, and now they want a coup. On the one hand, they have been suppressing it for too long, and after igniting the fire in their hearts, they can't take it back. On the other hand, Shisui's mouth curved into a sarcastic smile. They think that Garashi-sama is broad-minded, and even if the coup fails, he won't punish them too much. They are crazy. Bordered Soil's mouth twitched wildly. He thought that he was crazy enough, but he didn't expect that there were so many people crazier than him. What is this? Are they crazy people? No matter what they think, this is also your chance. Shisui analyzed, using those people as proof. Maybe you can regain their trust. Regain their trust? Bordered Soil smiled bitterly. People like me don't deserve to have their trust. As long as they can wake Rin up, that's enough. Rin? Shisui frowned slightly. He has heard about the senpai who indirectly led to the end of the Third Shinobi World War, but shouldn't she be dead? Chapter 443. Woodleaf Hospital. Looking at Danzo, whose calf was still twitching unconsciously, Garashi thought to himself, although it was me who said to save some face for Naruto, it's just a formality, and the official ban on the topic will easily arouse curiosity, and I can also drag the two Naruto consultants into the water. It's best if I can ruin their reputation before I officially succeed Naruto. Outside the ward, there were already many young nurses. Looking at the tall figure standing in the ward, even their eyes were shining. Is that Garashi-sama? I heard that Garashi-sama's medical ninjutsu is super powerful. Of course, Garashi-sama is the world's #1 medical ninjutsu. I heard that in order to treat his close friend, Garashi-sama became Tsunade-sama's disciple, and performed a super difficult surgery when he was 6 or 7 years old. Amazing. When I was 6 or 7 years old, I didn't even know a single ninjutsu. Because Garashi was a graduate of Woodleaf Hospital, this relationship made Garashi feel particularly close to them. When they talk about Garashi, they always have a proud tone. Disperse, the patient needs to rest. Why are you all standing around here? Do you feel that you don't have enough tasks on hand, so you want me to arrange it for you? A few reprimands came from outside the crowd, and the young nurses shrank their necks. Although they were reluctant, they still timidly left. When the young nurses dispersed, a few people outside the door took the opportunity to sneak in. Looking at them, Garashi smiled. Yumiko-san, Misa-san, Kotoko-san, you are now much more powerful than before. We're all seniors who've worked hard to get to where we are now. We can't compare to you, Shushi. Yumiko laughed. Misa nodded again and asked in a gossipy manner, Garashi, you came back this time to become Naruto. Puff, Danzo, who was lying on the side, unconsciously spurted out a column of water. Fortunately, he had already spat out everything he had eaten. Only some acid came out, but it still covered his face. The three of them were shocked. Lord Naruto, Danzo's body twitched a few more times as if he was having an epileptic seizure, and they were so scared that they didn't dare to speak. Garashi sighed. You can think of it as him vomiting whenever he hears those two words. Kotoko wiped Danzo's face with a towel to prevent him from choking to death. What two words are you talking about? Could it be fire? Feeling that Danzo was about to twitch again, Kotoko quickly shut up. I won't say it. For a moment, they didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The originally good atmosphere of reminiscing was ruined just like that. Garashi sighed. Elder Danzo has done a lot of wrong things, but to become like this today, perhaps it's worse than killing him. Yumiko snorted. He caused you, Garashi, to be unable to come back for 7 years, and this is already considered light. Misa and Kotoko's eyes flashed with a malicious light, and they planned to call Naruto a few times to play with him. Walking out of the hospital, everyone was waiting outside. There were confidants like Kurenai and Shizen, opponents like Asuma and Kakashi, supporters and admirers like Mizuki and Guy, followers sent by the academy to worship him, and comrades who had received his favor on the battlefield. Seeing familiar friends, Garashi smiled and opened his hands. Everyone, I'm back. Hearing this, everyone's nose turned sour, and they almost shed tears. It had been 7 years since Shushi had left the village. They are only 21 or 22 years old, and 7 years is already 1/3 of their lives. After such a long wait, they can finally be together again. Someone took the lead and shouted, "Welcome back, Shushi." Everyone was crying and laughing at the same time. The gathering of everyone naturally attracted a lot of onlookers, but they didn't feel embarrassed. Instead, they felt proud and honored. The surrounding people didn't look at them strangely, but they looked at them with envy. This kind of pure and unadulterated feeling is what everyone yearns for. Garashi, you're not going to leave this time, right? Shizen asked nervously. I'm not going to leave. Garashi laughed. I'm not going to leave forever. Wow, that's great. Tonight, everyone, let's celebrate together. On the side of the hospital, Sandame looked at the cheering crowd with a look of reminiscence in his eyes. We were once young, as pure and innocent as them. He sighed and looked at the hospital again. Through the window, he saw Danzo lying paralyzed on the hospital bed, and he couldn't help but feel sad. What is it? Is it time or power that made you, and us become what we are today? At night, Garashi's home. Although it had been many years since he had last stayed here, the courtyard was not dirty or messy. Instead, it was clean and orderly. When you're not here, Kurenai and Shizen come to clean it every half a month. Asuma winked at Garashi. Guy found a blind spot. Wait, why do the two seniors have the key to Senpai's house? Garashi smiled. Of course, it's because the two of them are also the owners of this house. The two women who were watching with smiles on their faces suddenly froze. Their cheeks flushed red and their faces heated up. Steam seemed to be rising from the top of their heads. There was only one thought in their minds. Is this a proposal? The surrounding people also stared with their eyes wide open, as if there was a wolf howling madly in their hearts. This is too exciting. Garashi looked at the two women and solemnly said, "Thank you for waiting for me for so long. When the war is over, are you willing to be with me forever and never be separated?" The 7 years of separation didn't make their feelings strange and obscure. Instead, it was like a pot of old wine. Because of the brewing of time, it became more mellow and rich. Therefore, the two women didn't hesitate too much. After making a decision in their hearts, they nodded and smiled. "I'm willing." The two women looked at each other and smiled, then looked at Garashi and said as if making a promise, "Together forever and never be separated." Witnessing this scene, Guy was so excited that he cried and howled on the spot. Ah, Garashi hit him on the head and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Don't cry, people who don't know will think that the village has attracted wolves." Asma patted Garashi's shoulder. "Give me a little nephew soon." Shuei Mu, whose temperament was becoming more and more like Orochimaru, also had a smile on his cold face. "Bless you, Garashi." Kakashi also gave his blessing. "Senpai, I wish you two will be happy forever." "Thank you, everyone, but let's save these words for the wedding." Garashi laughed heartily. "Let's start the banquet today." Chapter 444. Just like the night when the war ended 8 years ago, the place was brightly lit. Everyone released the pressure in their hearts. At this moment, they didn't worry about the future, nor did they worry about the threat brought by the Akatsuki. Everyone was happily laughing and playing games. It was as if they had returned to their carefree days in school. "I, Sparrow Saint, will come back today. There will be a bloodbath. You have to pay attention. I've already heard my cards. If you give it to me, Asma, hurry up." "Okay, I'll bet 50,000. It's over, X3. Pfft. Why did I get 3 cards in one go?" Kakashi looked at the side with a complicated expression, thinking of the boy who shouted 17 cards and was defeated in seconds. Garashi patted him on the shoulder. "Why didn't you play with everyone?" Kakashi's body trembled. He looked back and relaxed when he saw that it was Senpai. He forced a smile. "I'm not feeling well, so I don't want to disturb everyone." Garashi asked, "Are you thinking of bordered soil?" Kakashi's body stiffened, and he immediately sighed. "Although it's a bit disappointing to talk about him on such a happy day, I still can't understand why he became like this." Shushi smiled gently. "Then let's go find him and ask him in front of him." "Find him." Kakashi's spirit was lifted, but soon he smiled bitterly. Can he come back? In his opinion, if what bordered soil did was true, the best ending after he came back would be life imprisonment, right? Garashi shook his head slightly. "Isn't it a friend's duty to bring back people who have gone astray? Even if you're punished afterwards, you shouldn't watch him continue to make mistakes." Kakashi was in a trance for a moment, then he took a deep breath. "Senpai, you're right. I can't watch bordered soil continue to make mistakes." After saying that, he walked in a direction. Over there, Naruto was shouting, "So many people. It feels like a market at night." A certain fox in his space of consciousness was urging him loudly, "Hurry up and go. Isn't it boring to watch like this?" Naruto sighed. "I don't have any money. If I lose, should I mortgage you here?" Ninetailed clamored, "Trust me, you won't lose a single round." Hee hee. "However, I seem to have forgotten something." "What is it?" Next to him, Minato and Shina Kushina commented with a smile. As expected of Asma. "He's so good at lighting up the cannon. I can only say that this is his style. He dares to do anything to win." At this time, Kakashi walked over and bowed to them. "Minato-sensei, Shina Kushina, Ne-san, I would like to apologize to you on behalf of bordered soil." Minato shook his head slightly. "Let bygones be bygones. Besides, this has nothing to do with you." Kakashi stood up straight and clenched his fists. "I will definitely catch bordered soil and make him apologize to you." Shina Kushina smiled freely. If you really want to apologize, hurry up and wake Rin up. Really, you hid it from us for so long. Bordered soil, Rin. Kakashi nodded vigorously. I will definitely bring them all back. Alright, don't think about so many annoying things now. Just focus on having fun. Late at night, after the banquet, the lively courtyard returned to silence. After cleaning up the mess, Garashi walked to his room. Walking into the room, Garashi didn't go directly to the bed, but sat down on a chair. He picked up a book on the table and flipped through it, then said in a calm voice, "Please come in." The shadow outside the door was surprised for a moment, but thinking of the identity of the person in the room, he wasn't surprised. He pushed the door open and walked in. Looking up at the person, Garashi smiled. Fugaka-sensei, the time you picked seems to be a bit special. Fugaka didn't take the opportunity to get closer to him, but used a formal address. Garashi-sama, I have a very important secret report. Important secret? Garashi raised his eyebrows and made a hand seal, and an invisible barrier appeared around him. Okay, now we don't have to worry about the conversation being overheard by others. Seeing Garashi so serious, Fugaka relaxed a little and then said, the Uchiha clan is planning to launch a coup d'état. Garashi leaned forward slightly and asked in a serious tone, Fugaka-sensei, what's going on? Fugaka sighed, you also know that Danzo-sama has always been biased against our clan, and a few days ago, Bordered Soil and Shursui were exposed to be related to the Akatsuki, so the clan is even more nervous, and they are worried that Danzo-sama will use this as an excuse to settle the score. Therefore, our clan decided to take the initiative and launch a coup d'état before Danzo-sama settled the score. But who would have thought that such a thing would happen to Danzo-sama? Fugaka didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Although what happened to Danzo-sama is a good thing for our clan, it's a pity that it came too late, and most of the people have no way to turn back, so they finally decided to launch a coup d'état. So that's how it is. Garashi nodded thoughtfully and asked again, Fugaka-sensei, what do you think? Fugaka knew that this was the key part, so he said in a deep voice, I know that the village may not care too much about the rebellion of the Uchiha, but in this sensitive period, the suppression of the Uchiha clan may cause fear and chaos among the refugees, and the strength of the village will inevitably be damaged in the process of suppressing the rebellion. So, I hope that I can carry out the decapitation operation and kill the leaders of the radicals, and then the village will label me as an undercover agent of the Akatsuki. In this way, the Uchiha clan will no longer have the ability to rebel, and the hatred accumulated by the Uchiha clan will be transferred to me and the Akatsuki. The room was very quiet, and only the flickering light of the lamp could be seen. Fugaka didn't speak, but his breathing became rapid, as if he was waiting for the final judgment. At this time, Garashi suddenly looked outside and said with interest, it seems that there are more visitors coming, Fugaka-sensei, why don't you hide for a while? Fugaka was shocked. He knew that the matter of him coming to see Garashi tonight can't be spread out, otherwise, his action of transferring hatred will inevitably arouse suspicion. Therefore, he turned into a trash can at the fastest speed and jumped to the corner to hide. Thanks to the enchantment, the figure outside the door didn't notice the movement in the room. Then, the door suddenly opened. Seeing this, the figure outside the door was a little surprised, but he soon calmed down and walked in. Garashi-sama. Because he was hiding in the corner of the room, his line of sight was blocked by the bed, so Fugaka couldn't see the figure of the person coming in. But after hearing the voice, his heart jumped. Is this Shursui? Chapter 445. Isn't Shursui and Bordered Soil? Fugaka was surprised, but he quickly reacted. Shursui is a spy sent by Garashi to the Akatsuki? At this moment, Shursui was very happy. Fortunately, he betrayed the Akatsuki, otherwise, the Uchiha clan would have lost their last chance. At the same time, he couldn't help but feel sad for the people of the clan. The Manjikyu Sharingan they used to have confidence in, one of them betrayed them, and the other one directly sided with Garashi. How can they play this game? Shursui knelt on one knee and said, Garashi-sama, I have important secrets to report to you. Important secrets? Garashi said in an inscrutable tone. Are you referring to the Uchiha clan's preparations for a coup d'état? Shisui was surprised, and then sighed sincerely, as expected of Garashi-sama. Even if you are alone, the actions of the Uchiha clan can't be hidden from your eyes. Garashi smiled and didn't explain. What do you think? Shisui said, first of all, bordered soil. The Uchiha clan hopes that he can also join the battle, but in fact, bordered soil has decided to abandon the dark and join the light. Abandon the dark and join the light? Garashi stroked his chin. Is it credible? Although I don't know why he changed his mind, but this subordinate thinks that his attitude is not fake. Shisui said. Fugaku laughed in his heart. Well, that's 0. 5 pair of Manjiki Sharingan is also over. Garashi asked, there seems to be another Akatsuki member with bordered soil. Where is he? One of the important reasons why he wanted to expose bordered soil is that he wanted to see if Black Zetsu has any other trump cards, and what will he do after losing bordered soil. I asked bordered soil. He said that Black Zetsu has been killed by him, but he didn't want to say more about the specific process. Is that so? Garashi nodded slightly, but in his heart he thought, faking death to escape. As for what bordered soil said about Black Zetsu being killed by him, Garashi did not consider it at all. With the difference in intelligence between the two, such a result was impossible. However, Garashi didn't dwell on it. And then? What do you and the bordered soil plan to do? Shisui said in a low voice, Obito and I will kill half of the Uchiha's clansmen. Since we are already carrying the name of the Akatsuki, we can put all the blame on them. When Fugaku heard this, he was secretly speechless. This brat was really ruthless. The first thing he said was to kill half of the clan. Garashi placed his left hand on the table and tapped it gently. Just as he was about to make a decision, he looked out the door again. There are quite a lot of visitors today. Shisui, please find a place to hide. Quite a lot of visitors. Shisui was puzzled, but he didn't have time to think about it. He turned into a crow statue and jumped onto a cabinet. Lord Garashi. Hearing this voice, Fugaku didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This is good, all the Manjikyu have betrayed us. Garashi asked with a smile, Itachi, are you here to report that the Uchiha are preparing to launch a coup? How did you know? Itachi looked at Garashi in surprise. After being pointed out, the guilt in his heart disappeared a lot. Yes, I am here to report this to you. Garashi asked with interest, if I leave this matter to you, what will you do? Itachi pondered for a moment. I will kill all the clansmen, leaving only the old, children, and women who have no fighting ability. Then, I will claim that I was bewitched by the Akatsuki to defect. Garashi couldn't help but sigh. These 3 are more ruthless than the other. Fugaku was thinking about a question in his heart. Am I an old man? Itachi wouldn't want to kill me too, right? Garashi clapped his hands. Come out, all of you. Hearing Garashi's call, the 2 people in the corner and on the cabinet dispelled their transformation and jumped down. Uncle. Shisui, father. Everyone is here. Although it was a bit awkward to meet like this, the 3 of them are all strong-willed people, so after the awkwardness, they all recovered their calmness. Looking at the 3 of them, Garashi said, as for how to deal with the Uchiha, my idea is to let them launch a coup d'état. What? Let them launch a coup d'état? The 3 of them felt a chill in their heart. Is Garashi-sama going to let the Uchiha go and destroy themselves? Even if Garashi-sama doesn't care, the Uchiha will be isolated from the rest of the Woodleaf Empire and won't be able to gain a foothold in the Woodleaf Empire. Seeing the worried look on their faces, Garashi knew that they were thinking the wrong way, so he smiled and said, don't worry, I will suppress the coup d'état and not let anyone know. Seeing that Garashi was willing to keep the traitors a secret, the 3 of them were touched. Thank you for your kindness. Garashi waved his hand. I can't blame you for this. After all, this is a hidden danger left by Elder Danzo. Let them vent their dissatisfaction and start a new life. Fugaku asked, Garashi-sama, do we need to prepare anything in advance? Garashi shook his head and said, there is no need to prepare anything, just play your role well. Our role? Yes, the role of the traitors. Garashi said with a smile, tomorrow, I will enter your clan alone and give them the opportunity to launch a coup d'état. Fugaku was worried, you alone, only I alone can ensure that the news of the coup d'état won't spread out, and ensure that your clan won't be troubled by the coup d'état. Garashi emphasized, by the way, the three of you must not hold back, only by dispelling their arrogance will the seeds of rebellion not take root and sprout. Does this mean that you want to challenge our clan alone? Moreover, you have 3.5 pairs of Mangekyo Sharingan. Fugaku was shocked, but he didn't refute. He knew that Shushi had the strength to do so. Shursui and Itachi also nodded heavily. Although they were being beaten up as villains, they were still a little excited at the thought of being beaten up by Garashi-sama. Of course, it was mainly for the Uchiha. The next day, morning. Because it was the weekend, Sasuke, who didn't have to go to school, originally planned to play with Naruto. As a result, as soon as he arrived at the park, he found that Naruto was pressed to the ground by Neji because he forgot to ask Garashi-sama for an autograph. After a moment of silence for Naruto, Sasuke decisively slipped away. After all, Neji was the victim, so he couldn't bully him. Returning to the clan, Sasuke found that there were very few clansmen on the street today, giving him a very cold feeling. Is everyone sleeping at home? So lazy. Sasuke complained and walked in the direction of his home. He kicked stones on the street, like a ball, step by step, but after a few steps, he froze. Wait, my home seems to be gone. He had been resting in the hospital for the past few days, and his father and brother didn't inform him where his new home was. Thinking of this, Sasuke was a little discouraged. Damn, I have no place to go. At this time, a clansman wearing clothes stumbled over at the intersection, whispering, it's over, why did I get up late? Don't tell me I'm the only one who didn't go to the shrine? Sasuke's eyes lit up, so everyone went to the shrine? Chapter 446. Naka Shrine. Hundreds of people stood around the shrine, their eyes flashing with excitement. The proud Uchiha have not made their voice heard in the shinobi world for a long time. Fugaku stood at the head of the table and said in a dignified tone, we, the Uchiha, are the clan that established the Woodleaf clan. Everything that belongs to the Woodleaf clan should belong to us, but now, we have been driven to the edge of the village and even treated as suspects. Can you accept such a result? No. No. The crowd shouted fanatically. Fugaku raised his hand and motioned them to be quiet. However, we do not want to destroy the Woodleaf clan. Now is a sensitive time, and it is not wise to completely break with the Woodleaf clan. The purpose of the coup is to take back what belongs to us. Therefore, our action is mainly to demonstrate our strength to the Woodleaf clan so that they will not dare to force us too much. The target of our demonstration is Danzo, and we will make Naruto-sama the first sacrifice of the coup. Kill him, kill him. The Uchiha shouted excitedly. In the distance, Sasuke, who was secretly approaching, looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. Dad is going to launch a coup. Panic filled his heart for no reason, and it was so heavy that he couldn't breathe. Although he was proud of his Uchiha surname, whether it was what he learned in school or what he heard from others, he didn't think that the Uchiha could be the opponent of the village, not to mention the existence of the god of shinobi, Garashi-sama. What should I do? What should I do? Sasuke bit his thumb. If I take the initiative to report to Garashi-sama, maybe the village will be lenient. In front of the shrine, a space vortex suddenly appeared, and two people wearing black trench coats with red clouds walked out of the vortex. The coup against the Woodleaf clan, why don't you count me in? The excited crowd suddenly changed their target. The Uchiha bordered Soil clan. You bastard, how dare you show up? The Uchiha bordered Soil clan, a name that is unfamiliar to most of the Uchiha clansmen, has risen sharply in the past few days, almost replacing Danzo on the Uchiha list. As an Uchiha, he actually led others to attack the Uchiha clan, and now they are forced to embark on the path of a coup because of him. Of course, they are dissatisfied with the bordered Soil clan. There is no need to be so hostile to me. Bordered Soil said lightly, with my identity, attacking you, I am protecting you. Otherwise, why hasn't anyone talked to you after my identity has been exposed for several days? The Uchiha clansman of the Uchiha clan's clan. Let's not talk about the past, but that doesn't mean that the Uchiha welcome you. That's right, our coup d'état is just to convey our demands, not to get involved with your Akatsuki organization. Some of the radicals hesitated. They were the ones who proposed to contact the Bordered Soil clan, but they couldn't change the minds of most people. Bordered Soil clan shook his head slightly. We have separated from the Akatsuki. Today, I came here as an individual. Consider it as my repayment to the clan. Separated from the Akatsuki? The Uchiha clansman discussed in a low voice, seriously thinking about the possibility of this statement. Itachi looked at him coldly. Whether this guy really separated from the Akatsuki or not, he won't forget that this guy wanted to kill Sasuke. At this time, the Uchiha clansmen who were on guard outside ran in panic. Not good, not good. It's Shimizu Garashi, Sama. This name seemed to have infinite magic, and the originally noisy shrine suddenly quieted down. Then, the Uchiha clansmen said to themselves in panic. Why did he suddenly come here? Our coup was discovered before it even started? An elder barely recovered his calm and asked the Uchiha clansmen who fled back. How many people did Shimizu Garashi bring? One of the Uchiha clansmen said in a trembling voice. Just him. Just one. The Uchiha clansman's turbid pupils bloomed with light, and he raised his voice. Shimizu Garashi is the biggest obstacle to our coup, and he is also the core of the Woodleaf clan. As long as we take advantage of this opportunity to defeat him, the coup will succeed by 2/3. Seeing that everyone was a little moved, the Uchiha clansman continued to encourage. We have so many people here, and all of them are the elites of the Uchiha clan. We even gathered 3.5 pairs of Mangekyo Sharingan, and there is only one enemy. We can crush him with numbers. Under the Uchiha clansman's encouragement, the Uchiha clansman's voice gradually became more and more excited. Gentlemen, success or failure depends on this. Defeat Shimizu Garashi, kill Shimura Danzo. At this time, a gentle voice floated in from outside the shrine. I heard that you are looking for me. When this voice appeared, the arrogance of the Uchiha clansmen instantly disappeared. Then, Garashi walked in under their watchful eyes, walked straight into the crowd, and glanced around with a strong gaze. If you want to start a coup, now is the time. The Uchiha clansmen who were swept by his gaze lowered their heads in fear, and didn't dare to speak. Although there were hundreds of them surrounding Garashi, in terms of momentum, it was as if they were surrounded by Garashi alone. Those who have been on the battlefield and have seen Garashi in action were trembling at this moment, and their original impulse was like a bucket of cold water being poured over them, waking them up. Can they really make up for the gap between them and the 3.5 pairs of Mangekyo Sharingan? On the contrary, the younger generation who have only grown up in recent years looked at Garashi with an impulse to give it a try. As expected of senpai. Bordered Soil thought to himself, one person can make the Uchiha clan so afraid that no one dares to speak. This kind of aura is actually real. If it was one-on-one, an ordinary jonin wouldn't even have the courage to make a move in front of Garashi, Sama. An Uchiha clansman couldn't help but ask, you already knew that we were going to start a coup? Garashi nodded, that's right. Then why did you come in alone? If you really start a coup, things will become irreversible. I don't want to see the elders who founded the village disappear. So, I gave you a chance to mess around. Mess around? This kind of tone of an elder lecturing a child made many people exclaim. In the eyes of the other party, the coup they carefully prepared was just a mess. This kind of tolerance is really shocking. In addition to being shocked, they were also moved. In order to give them a chance, Garashi, Sama didn't hesitate to take the risk. Many people felt ashamed and immediately wanted to withdraw from the coup. Even the leaders of the radical faction were moved. If it was Garashi, Sama who was Naruto from the beginning, we wouldn't have come to this point. Chapter 447. In this silent atmosphere, Fugaku said, "Inami, Tetsuo, take some people to arrange a large barrier, don't let the movement here spread out." "Yes. As for the others, get ready to fight. Whether it's a coup or a mess, there has to be a result." Garashi not only didn't object but also nodded with a smile. "You don't have to hide your strength, let me see the strength of the Uchiha. The biggest difference between me and the Hokage is that I'm stronger than him, and I'm also more tolerant. The stronger you are, the happier I will be." As if responding to Garashi's call, Fugaku didn't hesitate and directly used Susanoo. Itachi and Shisui looked at each other and also entered the stage with Gundam. The three giant skeletons that appeared in front of the shrine in an instant made everyone feel a little relieved. Such a powerful force, even Garashi-sama has to face it, right? As the three giant skeletons raised their fists, the surrounding clansmen also used their best ninjutsu to attack Garashi. All kinds of fireballs, almost converged into a small sun and pushed towards the center with an unstoppable force. As the elites of the Uchiha, of course, they know more than one ninjutsu. But the most practical and most suitable ninjutsu is of course the Great Fireball Jutsu. Garashi clapped his hands and used water release, water wall jutsu. Although it is only a B-class ninjutsu, Garashi used it like a waterfall, blocking all the fireballs coming from all directions. So powerful, one person blocked the joint attack of hundreds of us. Is this still a water wall? It's more like a tidal wall. In the midst of the shock, three giant fists broke through the waterfall and hammered towards Garashi. However, Garashi just gently raised his hand and blocked Fugaku's giant fist, and then in front of everyone's eyes, he picked up the giant finger and directly swept it around, knocking Itachi and Shisui away. Seeing this, Bordered Soil quickly wrapped Garashi with his roots. "You actually dare to use wood escape in front of me." Garashi chuckled and poured the powerful yang escape power into the roots that wrapped around his body. The root grew wildly, and Garashi seized control of it in an instant. Then, it turned from passive to active, and pounced on the Bordered Soil in an incomparably violent manner. "Damn it, my Mokuton is useless in front of Senpai." Obito thought gloomily as he dodged the attacks. He only has one Mangekyo, so he can't use the Susanoo in his eyes. As for Shinwei, there was still an evil guest living in his space. Unless he suddenly used his ability after not using it for a few days like when he entered the arena, he would be caught sooner or later. In other words, the only method he could take out at present was wood escape, but his wood escape was completely countered by Garashi. After being attacked by Garashi, the Bordered Soil quickly fell into a perilous situation. Fortunately, he still had teammates. While controlling the giant arm to punch Garashi, Shisui used genjutsu to interfere. However, the genjutsu he used was like a stone sinking into the sea. There was no reaction at all. "My genjutsu is actually..." Shisui was absent-minded for a moment, and when he came back to his senses, he saw that Susanoo's chakra arm had been shattered by Shisui's attack. This extremely shocking scene made everyone widen their eyes, and they couldn't understand how Garashi's body contained such a powerful force. It wasn't over yet. Garashi used the remaining strength to jump on the giant's body, and with a simple punch, he shattered all the skeletons on Shisui's body. However, just when his fist was about to touch Shisui's body, his mind inexplicably stagnated for a moment, and when he recovered, he saw Shisui escaping at a speed far faster than before. Time stop and time accelerate. Garashi narrowed his eyes. Was this Itachi's second ability? But that's right, in that case, in addition to hoping for time to stop, he would also want to speed up to save Sasuke. "Itachi, can you use it again?" "Wait, your eyes." Using dojutsu while maintaining Susanoo was naturally a great burden on Itachi's eyes, and 2 lines of bloody tears flowed down, making Shisui swallow back the words he was about to say. "It's okay, I can still hold on." Itachi shook his head slightly. Shisui's eyes were slightly red, but he didn't say anything. "Be careful," Garashi reminded. "Next, I'm going to be a little more serious." Everyone was shocked. Could it be that Garashi-sama was still playing with them until now? After his voice fell, Garashi's speed almost soared by 3 times, like a stream of light, constantly bouncing in this narrow range of space. The skeletons on Itachi and Fugaku's bodies were like clay dolls, and in the blink of an eye, more than half of the skeletons cracked. Too fast. Itachi's eyes were wide open. He couldn't even determine Garashi's position, let alone time and space freeze. As for speeding up his own time, the speed gap between the two sides was too big. No matter how much he accelerated, it was useless. Fugaku was the same. He could perceive that the defense of the skeletons was too far away from Garashi's attack, unless he developed Susanoo to its complete form. Otherwise, the simplified version of Susanoo would have no power at all. The surrounding Uchiha clansmen were also dumbfounded, since Garashi began to move at high speed. Even if they opened their Sharingan, they couldn't keep up with his speed. They could only vaguely see a white light. So what are they doing here? Are they just onlookers? While they were still in shock, some of them asked, "What's the matter?" Speaking of which, Garashi-sama didn't use Mokuton or Ice Release until now. He has been using Taijutsu to fight, right? Most likely because the battle of Mokuton and Ice Release was too big, and the traces after the battle are not easy to remove, so Garashi-sama has been using Taijutsu to fight. It's terrible. He can use only Taijutsu to make Manjiki's Sharingan helpless. It's really an overwhelming victory. In the distance, Sasuke also widened his eyes. In his mind, his father and brother were invincible, but they couldn't resist at all. It was really exciting. If I can be as powerful as Garashi-sama, I can let them play with me more. Humph, if they don't obey, I will directly suppress them and beat them. In just a few seconds, the two skeletons were embedded in the ground, and then slowly dissipated. Looking at the huge crater on the ground, it was as if a meteorite hit it. The surrounding people felt a chill in their hearts. Fortunately, Garashi-sama controlled the range of the battle. If the skeletons fell slightly in the wrong direction, at least 1/3 of them would have been killed. Garashi stopped moving at high speed. His body was spotless. He looked at the crowd and asked, "What? Do you still want to fight?" The crowd of Uchiha clansmen shook their heads in unison, as if they were going to break their heads. What a joke! If they knew that the invincible Manjiki Sharingan in their family records was here, they wouldn't have rebelled. Chapter 448. Many clansmen looked at the leaders of the radical faction with resentful eyes. Didn't you say that the power of the Mangekyo is comparable to that of Garashi-sama? This is obviously a one-sided beating. The leaders of the Uchiha clan felt as if there was a knife on their back, and they secretly complained in their hearts. Why are the ancestors boasting about nothing? Saying that the Mangekyo Sharingan is invincible in the world, bah, whoever believes that is stupid. I understand your unwillingness to be ostracized, so I can forgive you for the first mistake you made, but there won't be a second time for this kind of thing. Alright, I understand your unwillingness to be ostracized, so I can forgive your first mistake, but there won't be a second time. Hearing this, everyone nodded again and again. The myth of the Mangekyo Sharingan has been broken. How could they dare to be stubborn? Fugaku climbed out of the huge pit. Although he was a little embarrassed, he was only grateful to Garashi. Taking a beating in exchange for the continuation of the clan and suppressing the impetuous atmosphere in the clan, it was really worth it. Thank you Garashi-sama for your forgiveness. I swear in the name of the Uchiha clan that there will never be a coup d'état in the future. In fact, he wanted to use this opportunity to set the tone so that the radicals wouldn't go crazy one day. And in this case, naturally, no one would object. Garashi nodded slightly and looked at the crowd and said, "Let's disperse. Remember to repair the ground here, don't let others find out." After saying that, he looked at the bordered soil and said, "Come with me." After Garashi took them away, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Garashi-sama's aura was too strong. Although he didn't reprimand them too much, just the power he unintentionally exuded was enough to make them tremble in fear. Fortunately, Garashi-sama didn't pursue this matter, otherwise, we would be in trouble. By the way, will Garashi-sama become Naruto? Do you still need to ask? Except for that shameless old man, who else would think that they can be compared with Garashi-sama? Walking to a secluded place. Looking at the bordered soil, Garashi asked with a complicated expression, I heard from Shursui that you want to come back? Bordered Soil didn't dare to look straight into Garashi's eyes. He lowered his head and said in a low voice, yes. After saying that, he hurriedly added, I don't ask for everyone's forgiveness. Even if you want to arrest me and execute me, it's fine. But there's one thing that I hope you can give me the answer to. What is it? Bordered Soil's nervous voice was mixed with anticipation. Lin, is she still alive? Hearing Bordered Soil's question, the other three were shocked. They were no stranger to Rin, who indirectly led to the end of the Third Shinobi World War. Shouldn't that girl be dead a long time ago? Under their surprised and Bordered Soil's expectant gaze, Garashi slowly nodded. Yes, Lin is indeed alive in a state of suspended animation. It's true, it's great that Lin is still alive. Bordered Soil cried and laughed. He was happy that Lin was still alive, but also sad for his fate. If he knew that Lin was still alive, he wouldn't have to go down this path. Obito let out a long sigh of relief and then calmed down. Senpai, if you have any questions, just ask. I will tell you everything I know. Garashi thought for a moment and said, tell me everything you know about the Akatsuki. I'll start from the beginning. Bordered Soil said with some emotion, in fact, I'm one of the people behind the scenes. Shursui couldn't help but ask, didn't you defect from the Akatsuki? You said that Aizen was the core. Fugaku and Itachi had a strange look in their eyes. Why would the mastermind defect? What a shame to the mastermind. Bordered Soil looked embarrassed. There was a problem. If it weren't for Aizen, the Akatsuki would have been under my control. With that, he warned in a dignified tone, you must be careful of the man named Aizen. He is many times more dangerous than the leader of the Akatsuki. That man is really dangerous. Shursui emphasized. Bordered Soil, Senpai deliberately ambushed him, but he couldn't beat him. Bordered Soil smiled awkwardly. He seemed to have failed as the mastermind behind the scenes. Garashi nodded and then asked, what happened in the Third World War? How did you survive, and how did you become the mastermind behind the scenes? Bordered Soil recalled and said, I really thought I was going to die, but I didn't expect Madara to save me. Madara? You mean Uchiha Madara? Fugaku asked. Bordered Soil nodded. He didn't die, he survived the battle with the first Naruto using the forbidden technique Izanagi. It turned out to be Izanagi. Fugaku was shocked, and then he thought about how to explain to Garashi. Izanagi is the forbidden technique of our Uchiha clan. Without waiting for him to finish, Garashi waved his hand. I know, no need to explain, Bordered Soil, go on. Bordered Soil was not surprised that Garashi knew about Izanagi. In his view, everything was reasonable. Not only that, but Madara also evolved his Manjikyu Sharingan into Rinnegan. Fugaku couldn't help but interrupt again. What did you say? Rinnegan? Itachi asked, if Rinnegan is the evolved form of Manjikyu Sharingan, then is the Rinnegan of the Akatsuki Sharingan Madara's? Yes. But Madara is dead. Bordered Soil continued to expose, but he transplanted his Rinnegan into Nagato decades ago, and he is one of the 3 people who control the Akatsuki today. Nagato? I once fought against him in the Chunin exam. Garashi pretended to be surprised. Senpai, you are right, they are the friends you used to know. Bordered Soil said. Fugaku was still a little puzzled. With Madara's character, would he give his eyes away? It's not a gift, Madara just used it as a vessel to nourish his eyes. Bordered Soil shook his head slightly. If Aizen didn't find the grayer ore for him, Nagato would have been squeezed dry by his eyes. Shursui asked, but why did Madara do this? It's for his resurrection. Bordered Soil said, the Rinnegan can resurrect the dead. Madara gave the Rinnegan to Nagato so that he could resurrect him one day, and I am the executor he chose. The 3 were shocked by this series of news, and Garashi asked, since you decided to come back, isn't Madara's resurrection plan a failure? Bordered Soil showed an awkward but polite smile. Madara seemed to have been cheated by him. But he can't be blamed. The 5 great ninja villages have senpai, and the Akatsuki has Aizen. No matter which side it is, it's too difficult to complete Madara's mission. Thinking of this, Bordered Soil thought, I'd better buy a few Naruto paper dolls and burn them for him. Chapter 449. Knowing that Madara couldn't be resurrected, they were relieved. Not to mention how powerful Madara is, he awakened the Rinnegan and arranged the means of resurrection decades in advance. You can see how terrible he is. The 3 of them sighed, but they also felt lucky. Fortunately, Madara chose a scum spokesperson. If it was Tashi, Madara's plan might have succeeded long ago. The 3 of them thought so, and then their minds changed. It doesn't seem right. If it was Tashi, Madara would have been eaten until there was nothing left. In this way, Madara chose a scum spokesperson. After a moment of silence, Garashi asked again, how does the Akatsuki control those monsters? Is it possible for us to take control of them? Bordered Soil shook his head. In fact, the Akatsuki can't control those monsters. Garashi was surprised. They can't control them? The only person who can control the monsters is Black Zetsu. Black Zetsu? Isn't that Zetsu? Bordered Soil explained, Zetsu is the combination of Black Zetsu and White Zetsu. White Zetsu is the monster you're talking about, and Black Zetsu is the consciousness of White Zetsu. Even this kind of thing can be done, worthy of the legendary ninja. Garashi exclaimed. What about Black Zetsu? Itachi was excited. As long as we catch him, we can end the demon disaster. Bordered Soil smiled. I killed him. Itachi and Shursui, Fugaku asked, is the purpose of the demon disaster to force the Akatsuki to war? Black Zetsu is worried that Senpai will grow too fast, so. Bordered Soil suddenly remembered that Black Zetsu secretly caught Sanbai behind his back. He said in a low voice, no, he should be worried that I will find out that Rin is not dead, so he forced the Akatsuki to start the war ahead of time. Fugaku was stunned. He couldn't think of the connection between the little girls not dead and the war. Garashi pretended to have a headache and rubbed his eyebrows. What about the action of capturing the Jinchuriki? Don't tell me it's your idea with Black Zetsu? Bordered Soil laughed awkwardly, haha, senior, you saw through me. Fugaku and the other 2 no longer had the strength to complain. So this was what the mastermind meant. He wanted to meddle in everything, but couldn't do anything. So the mastermind behind the scenes was the shit stirrer? After laughing twice, Bordered Soil added, Black Zetsu and I deceived the Akatsuki, saying that by capturing the 9-tailed beasts and throwing them into the Geto Mazo, we can regain control of those monsters, but in fact, we want to revive the Jubi and make the resurrected Madara the Jubi's Jinchuriki. What? 10 tails? Fugaku felt that he had never been more shocked in his entire life than today. Even an absurd existence like the Jubi had appeared. Bordered Soil said, the first 10-tailed Jinchuriki was Hagoromo Sennin. He was worried that no one would be able to control the 10-tailed Jinchuriki after his death, so he divided the 10-tailed Jinchuriki into 1 to 9. This is 2. Although what Bordered Soil said was true, Fugaku and the others still found it hard to imagine. Garashi said, regardless of whether the 10-tailed Jinchuriki and Hagoromo Sennin are real or not, since the idea of collecting tailed beasts to control monsters was fabricated by you, and you have now betrayed the Akatsuki, does it mean that the Akatsuki should give up the plan of collecting tailed beasts? Well. Bordered Soil thought for a moment and shook his head slightly, I'm not sure. Aizen is said to be a monster that survived from ancient times. If he has seen the 10-tailed Jinchuriki, with his wisdom, it's very likely that he can analyze the possibility of creating the Jubi's Jinchuriki from my attitude and the current situation of the 1-tailed Jinchuriki. Ancient humans? Itachi couldn't help but ask. Maybe they slept in some way until now. Bordered Soil guessed. Garashi pondered, sure enough, we still can't give up the protection of the Jinchuriki. Seeing Garashi frowning, Fugaku said, I don't think there's any need to worry. Although the Akatsuki is powerful, as long as we pay attention to them, they won't be a threat at all. At least, they can't take away Shinakushina's Kyubi. No, they can do it. Bordered Soil took a deep breath, as long as they use Yunan's Jinjio and Jinjio brothers as substitutes. Jinjio and Jinjio brothers? Didn't they die a long time ago? Fugaku's face changed. Is it Edo Tensei? Yes, it's Edo Tensei. Bordered Soil said with certainty. But 4 years ago, they didn't get the Edo Tensei. Shursui suddenly understood. I understand. Danzo must have promised to give them the Edo Tensei after he returned to the village. No, it shouldn't be him. Bordered Soil said in a deep voice. Before he was released, Aizen got the Edo Tensei from Woodleaf. Fugaku looked dignified. In other words, there are traders in the village, and they have access to the Scroll of Seals. Bordered Soil warned, if the Akatsuki uses the power of the Edo Tensei, the other villages may not have enough defensive power. Patriarch Fugaku, please inform people to check the tombs of Sandime-sama and Nidaime-sama. Garashi walked out quickly. We must inform the other villages as soon as possible. Time moved forward a little bit. The Akatsuki held an online meeting. As soon as everyone went online, they found that 2 of the original 10 seats were empty. Yahiko looked around and saw that Aizen was still online. He was relieved, and then hurriedly asked, Uncle, what's going on? Why did I hear that Hoodlum and Zetsu ambushed you in Woodleaf? Aizen nodded. There is indeed such a thing. Fortunately, they underestimated my strength and let me escape. Escape? Sasori had a strange look in his eyes. Even though he had only seen the tip of the iceberg, he was sure that Hoodlum and Juneng were not ambushed by Aizen. They were the ones who were forced to run away. It's good that you escaped. Conan was relieved, and then asked in confusion, are they crazy? Why did they attack Uncle? I guess they want to use Genjutsu to control me. Aizen guessed. After all, I have a lot of influence in the organization. Before I joined, I had a lot of connections. Genjutsu control? Yahiko's eyes were strange. It shouldn't be. They also participated in the battle where you defeated Hanzo. They should know that your Genjutsu is very strong, and it's difficult to control you with Genjutsu. The key should be the Uchiha boy they brought. He can block Genjutsu in a certain area. Aizen said, in the case where Genjutsu is blocked, it's possible for them to control me. Those 2 guys are very suspicious. Nagato said in a deep voice, unlike your experience of being invited, the 2 of them took the initiative to ask us to join the organization. Chapter 450. Yahiko still remembered Zetsu's words about using the complete form of the Geto Mazo to control monsters, so he hesitated and asked, then, should we continue to capture tailed beasts? Aizen pondered and said, from the information revealed by Hoodlum and the others when they ambushed me, gathering all 9 tailed beasts seems to cause a qualitative change. After saying that, he asked again, by the way, how many Jinchuriki did we capture this time? Yahiko said, except for the Gobi, Hachibi, and Kyubi, all the other Jinchuriki have been captured. The Kyubi chakra can be replaced by the Golden Horn and Silver Horn brothers, that is to say, only the Gobi and Hachibi are left. Aizen nodded slowly. We are only 1 step away, and it's too late to stop now. That's right, anyway, there's only 1 step left. Yahiko suddenly realized, using the Golden Horn and Silver Horn brothers to replace the Kyubi? Hoodlum and the others were prepared to use Golden Horn and Silver Horn as replacements from the beginning, so they didn't mind attacking me when we were capturing the Kyubi's Jinchuriki. Aizen explained. Those 2 bastards are really scheming. Conan said angrily. Although there are only 2 bijou left, the difficulty of capturing the last 2. Raiga said with a tangled expression, but suddenly he realized something. The 5 great shinobi villages don't know that we have the Edo Tensei, and with Shimizu Azushi's position, they will most likely defend the Kyubi Jinchuriki, and this is our chance. Conan's eyes lit up when he heard this. Yes, as long as we don't consider Shimizu Garashi, capturing the Gobi and Hachibi won't be difficult. However, Aizen shook his head slightly. I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. When I escaped, I left a doppelganger in Hoodlum's space. He didn't realize it was a doppelganger, and he didn't dare to attack me because of my strength. But just now, my doppelganger dissipated, and the one who destroyed it was Shimizu Garashi. Hearing this, everyone's expression changed greatly. What? Did he betray Woodleaf? He actually dared to return to Woodleaf. Although Hoodlum knew a lot of the organization's secrets and had betrayed the organization, they weren't worried that Hoodlum would leak the information. After all, Hoodlum's other name is Uchiha Bordered Soil. How could a person who betrayed Woodleaf have the face to go back? How could Woodleaf believe him? Damn it, I still underestimated the thickness of that guy's skin. Conan cursed fiercely. Leah nodded in agreement. Compared to him, even a deserter like me is considered noble. Yahiko's expression changed. Wait, if Hoodlum revealed our details and the fact that we obtained the Edo Tensei to Woodleaf, the people on Woodleaf's side might rush to use the Edo Tensei first. Because Sasori didn't have many living puppets, and the Edo Tensei can only stay in the main world for a few days using ordinary sacrifices, he didn't summon the Edo Tensei army in advance, but kept it aside, intending to use it as a surprise attack at a critical moment. But now it's not possible. If they don't summon the souls now, the enemy may take the initiative. Of course, the premise is that the people of the 5 great shinobi villages don't abstain from summoning the souls of their ancestors. Hearing Yahiko's words, everyone realized the seriousness of the problem. Although the 5 great shinobi villages are rigid, it's very likely that they won't agree to desecrate the souls of their ancestors. But what if? What if those people suddenly become enlightened? Then wouldn't the preparations they made in advance be in vain? They originally needed to rely on the Edo Tensei to reduce the gap between them and the enemy, and if they use it in the hands of the enemy, the gap will only become bigger. Thinking of this, Yahiko hurriedly asked, I asked you to collect the bones before launching the attack. How is the collection going? Don't worry, the rakeage of several generations have been collected. The same goes for Kirin. Seeing that the bones of the Kage and the strongest of the 5 great shinobi villages were collected, Yahiko sighed in relief. Very well, let's end the meeting now. I'll let Nagato summon all of you using summoning jutsu. By the way, Sasori, bring 2 living puppets with you. Sasori nodded calmly, I know. Thank you. Yahiko nodded and then looked at the others, remember, don't resist. After that, the light in the space quickly dimmed. In an abandoned building in the Rain Country. Conan opened his eyes and asked, with the time limit of the Edo Tensei Jutsu, are we going to launch the final attack directly? Yahiko nodded, we are already in a weak position, there is no time to continue hesitating. Nagato asked thoughtfully, the living puppets you asked Sasori to bring with him are for Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, right? Yahiko said, although the Edo Tensei Jutsu can be repeatedly summoned, the souls that have returned to the underworld cannot be summoned a second time in a short period of time. Ordinary souls can go back, but I still want to keep the 2 of them. Indeed, the strength of those 2 may not be worse than Shimizu Garashi. Even if the Edo Tensei can't exert their full strength, the 2 of them should be almost the same. The only trouble is... Nagato took a deep breath, I don't know if I can suppress them. Yahiko and Conan both looked dignified. They have also studied the Edo Tensei Jutsu, so they naturally know that if the summoned person is too strong, it is possible for the summoner to be counterattacked. Therefore, the person who can use this technique can only be Nagato who has Rinnegan. If it is you, you can definitely do it. I hope so, in fact, there is still a problem. Nagato said with a dignified tone, if I completely retain their personality and don't control them, they are likely to ascend to heaven with their own strong will. But if I bind them, I won't have the extra energy to summon you when you are in danger. There is no other way. Yahiko sighed, let's not talk about this, let's start the summoning. Nagato nodded and directly summoned everyone scattered in the ninja world. The next moment, everyone appeared in the abandoned building. Raiga, who was summoned, was amazed, as expected of the Rinnegan, you can summon us even though we have not signed a contract. Nagato's face was pale and he didn't speak, such a long-distance summoning almost drained his chakra. Kakuzu suddenly asked, can you summon the 2 traitors? Nagato shook his head slightly, they must not resist. If it is really that simple, then this war will be easy. Raiga laughed, just summon the strongest of the ninja villages one by one. Yahiko looked around at everyone. Take out the bones you have collected and prepare to summon. Chapter 451. Most of the sacrificial vessels were white Zetsu captured from the battlefield, and the other two were living puppets brought by Sasori. After preparing the sacrifices, bones, and techniques, Nagato was almost ready to rest. Nagato stood in the middle of the giant array and began to print. The sacrificial vessels were gradually covered with dust, and the souls of the dead were summoned from the underworld, and the faces of the vessels turned into the appearance of the dead. The next moment, these undead opened their confused eyes. Aren't I already dead? Where is this? Wait, you are Woodleaf's White Fang. Isn't that the second Tsuchikage? The strong people of the villages have been resurrected, and our current state is Edo Tensei. It must be Nidame Naruto who did it. Nidame Naruto in the crowd scolded with a black face. Idiot, didn't you see that I was resurrected? Nidame Mizukage, who subconsciously threw the blame, laughed loudly. Even you, the one who invented the technique, are controlled. It's ridiculous. Hashirama on the side patted Tobarama on the shoulder and laughed. I have already said that your forbidden technique is not good. Tobarama coldly replied. Shut up. Hashirama immediately felt wronged and stopped talking. Suddenly, he was excited. Madara, you are also resurrected. At this moment, Madara was confused. Something is wrong, this is not the perfect resurrection I planned. Also, what about the bordered soil and my consciousness? Hearing the voice of Hashirama, Madara snorted. I see you when I open my eyes, this guy is really unlucky. Hearing the conversation between the two, the meeting, which had gradually become lively, was suddenly interrupted. Everyone's bewildered gazes swept over the two of them. No matter what era it is, the names of Hashirama and Uchiha Madara can shock people. At this time, there was a sound of clapping hands. We are the ones who disturbed your sleep. Although I am sorry, can you please be quiet for a while? Looking in the direction of the sound, they noticed that there were a few strange people wearing gaudy trench coats standing in the distance. Although being stared at by so many powerhouses with cold eyes, Yahiko didn't show any fear at all. To put it simply, we want to borrow your strength to rewrite the order of the shinobi world. The existence of the 5 great ninja villages is the biggest cancer in the world. Hashirama's proudest achievement was said like that, and he couldn't help but feel embarrassed. Ahem, is the ninja village system really that bad? For us ninjas from small countries, it's terrible. Nagato took over the topic. You 5 great shinobi villages clearly occupy the best resources and territories in the shinobi world, but because of greed and selfishness, you launched war again and again, and chose the location of the war to be the territory of our small countries. Countless families have been torn apart and displaced because of you. What we are doing today is nothing more than giving voice to the victims of war. Hashirama's eyes were blank, and he said with some lack of confidence. I didn't see such a picture. That's because you're still alive. Of course, no one dared to make trouble when you were alive. Nagato said with a sarcastic tone, you might as well ask your younger brother what happened after you died. At this time, Tobarama spoke, brother, there's no need to waste your breath on this group of ambitious people. They haven't seen the cruelty of the warring states period, and naturally, they won't understand our efforts. With that, he looked at Nagato with indifferent eyes, trying to use the kage of each village to start a war, and talking nonsense in front of me, the one who developed the Edo Tensei. Didn't anyone tell you not to mess around with forbidden jutsu? Tobarama quickly made hand seals and then put his hands together. Edo Tensei, release. However, 1 second, 2 seconds. 5 seconds passed, and nothing happened. The atmosphere was quite awkward, as if a crow was flying over everyone's head. Aizen laughed, although we can't compare to Nidame Naruto's talent in developing forbidden jutsu, we can still do it with a little improvement. Tobarama's heart kept sinking, these bastards even have the ability to modify his ninjutsu. This is not something an ordinary ambitious person can do. Madara's heart also sank, the current situation was completely different from what he had planned, but even so, he couldn't help but mock. Do you see, Hashirama? The era of shinobi villages you created such a cancer, and the jutsu left by Tobirama will destroy the entire shinobi world. Everything you've done is wrong. Hashirama opened his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. At this time, Raiga suddenly interrupted weakly, with your strength, you may not be able to destroy the shinobi world. Madara, who was slapped in the face in public, turned his head and asked fiercely, what did you say? Are you questioning my strength? Not to mention him, the other Kage and shinobi villages were also very unhappy. Do you know what it means for us to be together? It means the power to change the world. Although they didn't want to be controlled, they were still very confident in their own strength. With more than a dozen Kage here and the strength of the other famous strong people, it's easy to capture 2 or 3 villages, not to mention monsters like Madara and Hashirama. With such strength, is it difficult to destroy the shinobi world? However, the Akatsuki shook their heads slightly. You have shallow knowledge, I don't blame you. You don't know what kind of monster we are facing. Really, we are just going to use you to grab a few tailed beasts. They were really not optimistic about these people. For the weak, the Edo Tensei's immortal body and infinite chakra can be regarded as strengthening, but for the strong, it's hard to say whether it's strengthening or weakening. But for Hashirama and Madara, it's definitely weakened. In this case, if they face a monster like Shimizu Garashi with a proud attitude, they will be taught a lesson. Hearing the words of the Akatsuki, the Edo Tensei were so angry that they laughed. Our knowledge is shallow. What a joke. Even the Warring States period didn't make this old man afraid. What kind of monster are you talking about? Madara was even more unceremonious. Have you seen my real strength? Everyone answered in unison. I haven't seen it, but it's certainly not as good as that man. Madara's eyes twitched wildly, and he had to say that he hadn't felt this kind of anger for a long time. However, he quickly calmed down. You want to provoke me to fight for you with all my strength? Oh, you have a good plan. Everyone's eyes were strange, and they wanted to say that he really misunderstood, but when they saw Madara's face, they were too lazy to explain. If you don't experience the beating of society, you won't know what despair is. Chapter 452. Seeing that they didn't speak, Madara continued to mock them. It's understandable that you would say such stupid things. After all, even these wastes were summoned by you. It can be seen how hungry you are. They were called wastes by name. No matter how much they feared Uchiha Madara, they couldn't bear it. Not to mention, most of them only heard of Uchiha Madara's reputation. Immediately, someone said in a sarcastic tone, what's there to be proud of for a loser? The times will not stand still. You, who once awed an era, may have fallen behind long ago. For these voices, Madara directly burst out with powerful chakra and suppressed them with momentum alone. Oh, the people in this world are divided into 2 classes. One class is me and some idiot over there, and the other class is you scum. This substantial momentum made everyone's hearts sink. With their strength, although they were not suppressed to the point that they couldn't fight, the spiritual oppression still made them can only exert 90% of their strength at most. Uchiha Madara is as domineering as before. The strong people who have seen Madara's strength were all impressed. Those younger generation strong people also looked dignified. This is the power that once awed the warring states? It's really powerful. Ha! That's all you got. Madara's heart was disdainful, and his eyes swept over them, and then he heard some discordant voices. Is that all you got? Your momentum is far worse than that man's. The smile on Madara's mouth froze, and his eyes looked fiercely in the direction of the voice. In that direction, the reaction of the Akatsuki was mediocre, and even a little disappointed. Madara suppressed his anger and said, Don't think that you can humiliate me wantonly by improving Tobirama's Edo Tensei, Nagato scolded coldly. You're too proud. Even my Rinnegan can't fight back in front of that man. What's your Sharingan? Due to the shock of the Edo Tensei, coupled with Madara's performance just now, everyone realized that the other party actually has the legendary Rinnegan. It turned out to be the eyes of the legendary sage of the Six Paths. Even the owner of Rinnegan said so. It seems that there are really very powerful people in this era. For their reaction, Madara felt as if he had eaten a fly. This kid got his Rinnegan and still dared to run in front of him? Especially when he saw the shock in Hashirama's eyes, he wanted to shout, "Those are my eyes." However, considering the strangeness of today's resurrection, coupled with the absence of bordered soil and his consciousness, Madara had to endure it. But I'm still so angry. Nagato did have some ideas, so that Madara could play a better role in the battle. Therefore, Nagato continued to flatter, if you were at your peak, you might be able to fight against Shimizu Garashi. Madara was about to attack when he heard a few exclamations from the crowd. Garashi. Shimizu Garashi. These people were the White Fang, the third Raikage, 5 of the 7 swordsmen, and the third Mizukage. Hearing the third Mizukage's exclamation, Pipa Shirzong asked strangely. Third Mizukage-sama, were you also killed by Shimizu Garashi? The third Mizukage's mouth twitched, and he immediately took a deep breath. Yes, 2 years after you. Madara looked at him with scrutinizing eyes. You're the kid who followed White Lotus at the 5 Kages tournament. I didn't expect you to be a Mizukage, but it's nothing to kill a kid like you. Hearing the disdain in Madara's voice, the third Mizukage once again realized that Madara's betrayal was not without reason. This mouth is too annoying. Moreover, although he is a junior, in terms of age, he should be much older than Uchiha Madara, the bastard who died early. How impudent. Looking at Madara, the third Mizukage said in a flat tone. When he killed me, he was only 14 years old, and he did it while surrounded by thousands of Kirin ninjas. Although he was killed by Shimizu Garashi, he didn't have much hatred for Shimizu Garashi in his heart. During the war, it's understandable to do anything from your own standpoint, but correspondingly, you must bear the consequences. Therefore, he didn't think there was anything wrong with Shimizu Garashi's revenge. Compared with Shimizu Garashi, Madara was more annoying. Of course, the premise is that he didn't know that Rin was not dead. After listening to him, the people who were watching the show widened their eyes. 14 years old? That's too exaggerated. What a terrible talent. Killing a Kage is nothing, but if you add the age limit of 14 years old in front of it, it's very shocking, not to mention that he did it while surrounded by enemies. Hashirama exclaimed. That's amazing, Madara. When we were 14 years old, we were still fighting. Shut up. Madara scolded, and the experience of fighting Hashirama was definitely the black history of his life. As for Shimizu Garashi, he heard White Zetsu's report, but he was not so surprised. Seeing that Madara didn't seem to be moved, Nagato turned his eyes and looked at Hashirama, who was smirking and said. Speaking of which, our enemy has a lot to do with you. He is the disciple of your granddaughter. He developed Mokuton on his own. Like you, he suppressed the Kyubi. He was even crowned as the god of ninja at the age of 15. Hashirama's distorted expression was mixed with surprise. Katsuma has such an excellent disciple. Tobarama was also surprised. He developed Mokuton on his own, and at such a young age, he had the same title as my brother. Of course, he knew under what circumstances the title of the god of ninja could be obtained, by defeating the whole world, or by making the whole world gasp in awe. Hashirama rubbed his hands and smiled. It's always a little uneasy to be related to Katsuma. The Shimizu Garashi you mentioned. Is he reliable? It's not so much reliable, it's better to say that he's perfect. Nagato said with emotion. Whether it's character or strength, he's recognized as perfect. He's even better than you and more suitable for the title of the god of ninja. This time, Madara finally couldn't stand it. Better than Hashirama. Do you really know this guy? Do you know how strong he is? How dare you say such a thing? Hashirama touched his head with some embarrassment. I'm actually just a so-so, you shut up. Madara scolded. You're the only one who defeated me. He's stronger than you. What am I? No matter how powerful a person is, when it comes to the people he cares about, he will be blinded. Nagato sighed in his heart, but he said, if you want to prove yourself to Hashirama. I will soon give you this opportunity to fight Shimizu Shushi with all your strength. Madara also understood Nagato's calculation at this time, but he didn't care. He just snorted. How can he compare with me? Chapter 453. Hashirama also heard something wrong at this time and hurriedly dissuaded him. Madara, don't be fooled, this guy wants to use your power to destroy Wood Leaf. Madara's eyes were calm. Oh, that's right, I was going to destroy Wood Leaf. Hashirama? As I said, with Shimizu Garashi, Wood Leaf is not so easy to destroy. Nagato shook his head slightly. We're just going to catch a few tailed beasts. Catch a few tailed beasts? Madara's eyes were dignified. It took so much effort to summon them just to catch the tailed beasts. It seems that Akatsuki should be on the way to complete the Jubi. But what about the bordered soil and his consciousness? What happened during the time before his resurrection? Wood Leaf, in front of the cemetery of martyrs. In addition to Fugaku, there was also Tsunade, who returned to the village because of the outbreak of the demon disaster. Checking the tombs of the first and second Naruto, of course, it can't be done by the Uchiha. Otherwise, if something goes wrong with the tombs, they will have to bear the blame. You mean, the tombs of the second grandpa may have been robbed? Tsunade's face was very ugly. It's Garashi-sama who asked us to inform you. With the style of the Akatsuki, it's natural for them to seek the bones of the two Naruto after getting the Edo Tensei. Fugaku said. Using Garashi as a shield, Tsunade's face reluctantly looked better. Then let's do it. Soon, the tombs of the two Naruto were dug up, and everyone moved the coffins out. Tsunade touched one of the coffins sadly, and then her face changed. She could see that some parts of the coffin had less dust than other places, as if it had been opened not long ago. Damn bastard. Tsunade already had the answer in her heart, but she still pushed the coffin open. Sure enough, a large part of the bones lying in the coffin were missing. Damn bastard, don't let me find you. Tsunade shouted angrily and clenched her fist, and suddenly a sound burst out. Compared to Tsunade's anger, everyone else was in a heavy mood. The two Naruto corpses being stolen meant that they might have to face the two Naruto's Edo Tensei. The second Naruto was one thing, but the first Naruto was the same as Garashi, a legendary figure with the title of the god of ninjas. Could they handle it? The excavation of the tomb attracted many onlookers, including Asuma and the others. This is troublesome. Don't tell me we have to deal with the first generation's Edo Tensei. Although Garashi is very strong, the Edo Tensei is said to be able to revive infinitely. Ignoring the discussion of the crowd, Kakashi walked straight towards an Uchiha behind Fugaku with his head lowered. Bordered Soil, it's you, right? Bordered Soil trembled and slowly raised his head. It's me. Hearing the conversation between the two, the focus of the scene immediately shifted from the original coffin to Bordered Soil and Kakashi. Well, there's also Fugaku who is suspected of covering up. Seeing everyone looking at him with shock and suspicion, Fugaku hurriedly explained, Bordered Soil was caught by Garashi-sama, and he asked me to take him with me temporarily. Everyone reluctantly accepted this reason. No matter how bold Fugaku is, he wouldn't dare to fake Garashi, right? Kakashi didn't care about Fugaku's answer, he just looked at Bordered Soil with a complicated expression, and then couldn't help but punch him. You bastard, why did you do this? Why did you betray the village? Bordered Soil didn't resist. After being knocked to the ground, he stood up unsteadily. Kakashi grabbed him by the collar and shouted, Answer me. Bordered Soil didn't wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth, he just stared at Kakashi and said in a hoarse voice, If you could protect Rin, I wouldn't have become like this. Kakashi's body trembled. What did you say? Bordered Soil sneered, I told you to protect Rin. What did you do? Pierce through her chest with Raikiri. Kakashi was silent. He did owe Rin a lot. Although Rin didn't die, the person who did this wasn't him, but Senpai. Not to mention, although Rin is alive, he wasted 8 years of his life. After Rin wakes up, she might feel that this world is very strange. You didn't protect Rin. I always thought that my biggest mistake was to overestimate your ability. Bordered Soil had a complicated expression, but in fact, my biggest mistake was to underestimate Senpai's ability. If I could have trusted Senpai and taken the initiative to contact and ask, the later development wouldn't have become like this. Kakashi, who was hit by a counterattack, was at a loss. This is still my fault. At this moment, more than a dozen Umbu wearing animal masks appeared around them. Then, the encirclement opened up a gap. 2 old men came out of the gap. Koharu, Mitokado Hamura. Tsunade on the side frowned slightly. She really didn't have a good impression of these 2 Naruto advisors. Although they are fundamentally different from people like Danzo, their standards as Naruto advisors are really poor, stubborn, inflexible, incompetent, and muddle-headed. The most important thing is that their brains are sick. As for the reason, they didn't support such an excellent disciple like her, but ran to support Danzo instead. Isn't that just crazy? The 2 Naruto advisors didn't know that Tsunade was criticizing them, and said with dissatisfaction, "You met such a cruel villain, but you didn't catch him, and you even chatted as if nothing happened. What are you thinking?" Kakashi also wanted to argue for Bordered Soil. Bordered Soil is not that kind of ferocious. He's not ferocious. Koharu interrupted directly, and then asked in a cold voice, "Bordered Soil Uchiha, did you do the Kyuubi rebellion 7 years ago?" Bordered Soil was silent for a moment, and said frankly, "Yes, it was me." As his voice fell, the crowd was in an uproar, and everyone's eyes changed. Although some people have said that Bordered Soil was the culprit behind the Kyuubi rebellion, after all, there was no conclusion. But now, Bordered Soil Uchiha himself admitted it. Thinking of the fear and loss caused by the Kyuubi rebellion, everyone shouted angrily. "Kill him, kill him. Kill this demon in human skin. I am indeed unforgivable, and I have no face to ask for your forgiveness, but..." Bordered Soil Uchiha looked at Koharu and Kakashi like a knife, and sneered, "Are you and that Naruto clean? I told you in advance about the Kyuubi rebellion in exchange for Minato's downfall. You are in a hurry to arrest me because you are worried that I will tell the truth, right?" Bordered Soil Uchiha's words were like a bomb in the deep sea, blowing up everyone's thoughts. Naruto, Sama and the 2 advisors did such a thing. Because of Danzo's bad reputation, no one denied it immediately, and even the eyes looking at the 2 advisors became strange. Being looked at with such eyes, the 2 advisors Naruto only felt their blood stagnate, and even their voices were trembling. They glared at Bordered Soil Uchiha and accused him. "You villain, how dare you slander us? I even admitted to manipulating the Kyuubi rebellion, do I need to slander you?" Bordered Soil Uchiha's tone was contemptuous, but he sighed in his heart, "Senpai, this is the only thing I can do for you." Chapter 454. Of course, Bordered Soil knew. He only revealed the news to Danzo. As for whether the 2 of them participated or not, he didn't know. But that's not important. The important thing is that these 2 consultants are too much of a hindrance. Even from the standpoint of the enemy, it can be seen that they are a hindrance to Konoha. Senpai is such a kind person, even Danzo can tolerate him, so he definitely won't do anything to them. Bordered Soil thought so, and his eyes gradually became firm. "So, let me be the bad guy." Mitokado snorted coldly. "You're worthy of being a sinner. Even now, you still want to divide Wood Leaf. Don't use your dirty heart to guess our thoughts, even if Danzo." Koharu paused and continued. "Some of his methods may be radical, but there is absolutely no doubt about his love for Wood Leaf." Hearing them mention Danzo, Obito's eyes flashed. "You're asking for it. Can you guarantee that Danzo has not done anything to harm Wood Leaf?" Bordered Soil asked. Of course, I can guarantee that Danzo has never done anything to intentionally harm Konoha. Although she trusted Danzo, Koharu was still careful. Unintentional harm didn't count. Bordered Soil understood her meaning, but he didn't care and asked around. Are there any Yamanaka ninjas here? Please use the heart transmission technique to show everyone the memories in the depths of my mind. Seeing that he was so sure that he was even willing to show his memories, the two consultants faintly felt that something was wrong. But if they stopped him now, it would seem that they were afraid. Let me do it, ordinary people can't do this kind of thing. In the crowd, a man with a firm face came out. It's Yamanaka Inoichi-san. Someone around recognized him. As the head of the Yamanaka clan, and an elite jonin who guided Garashi, he can naturally be trusted. Inoichi walked in front of Bordered Soil and put his right hand on his forehead. The next moment, an image appeared in everyone's mind. An extremely wretched face opened its red lips and kissed the photo in its hand. At the same time, a disdainful gaze was cast in from outside the window, as if looking at scum and perverts. Then, there was no then. The transmission was cut off. Bordered Soil roared in shame and anger, "Bastard, it's not this." In the crowd, Red and Mute felt a chill. What a pervert. Asma patted Kakashi's shoulder. It must be hard for you to be in the same group as a pervert. The scene of Lin Fan dying on the spot caused the anger in the hearts of the surrounding people to subside slightly. They were also somewhat doubtful. Was this kind of idiot really the culprit behind the nine-tailed beast's chaos? Could there be a mistake somewhere? The corner of Hai Yi's mouth twitched. Then why don't you try to recall what you want me to show? Bordered Soil took a deep breath and began to recall. The screen was reconnected. Under the night sky, Danzo looked at the masked man in front of him. Controlling the Kyubi? Why should I believe the words of a sneaky rat? Because of my eyes. The masked man's tone was indifferent, and his pupils quickly changed into the shape of a windmill. Mangekyo Sharingan. Danzo's pupils shrank. Do you understand now? I do have the power to control the Kyubi. The masked man said. Why are you telling me this? Also, aren't you worried that I'll call someone to catch you now? I'm not wrong about you. I can see ambition in your eyes. Then you might be wrong. As the voice fell, hundreds of wind blades flew from behind the masked man. However, the masked man seemed to have no physical body, and the wind blades passed through his body. What? Danzo shouted in disbelief. Don't test me. I'm not sent by Namikaze Minato or Shimizu Garashi to test you. The masked man said. Humph. Danzo coldly snorted, and released the summoning, sending the nightmare taper back. Tell me, what do you want? I'm here to help you become Naruto. Danzo calmly asked, how are you going to help me? I'll control the Kyubi to attack Woodleaf. You can use this information to change your image. For example, in front of Woodleaf's higher-ups, you can predict that the Uchiha may control the Kyubi, or you can prepare in advance to save people in the chaos to increase your popularity. The masked man said, as for using the Kyubi to frame Namikaze Minato, you should be very familiar with this, so I won't say more. Danzo didn't comment, what's in it for you to help me like this? Don't get me wrong, I just want to destroy Woodleaf, and I fully believe in your ability. The masked man laughed, if you become Naruto, I believe that in a few years, you can lead Woodleaf to destruction. Danzo's mouth twitched slightly, then you'll be disappointed again. I'll only bring new life to Woodleaf. In short, happy cooperation. Humph, happy cooperation. The video was cut off, and the crowd was in a commotion. What? Naruto-sama actually betrayed Woodleaf for his own benefit. He still calls him Naruto. He's clearly a thief who stole Naruto's position. Maybe the Naruto-sama in his memory is the enemy's transformation technique, deliberately acting for us. Don't wash it, you didn't see such a big nightmare taper. Yondim-sama Naruto was really wronged. Koharu's eyes darkened, Danzo really betrayed Woodleaf, how did he become like this? Homura was in a bad mood, and he could already feel the suspicion and rejection in the eyes of the people around him. The two of them supported Danzo, and one of the important reasons was that he was farsighted and predicted the Uchiha's turmoil in advance, but the result was that Danzo cooperated with the enemy. From the perspective of others, most of them were already suspicious of their role in the Kyuubi's chaos. Thinking of this, Hamura took a deep breath. We didn't know Danzo. But before he could finish his words, Bordered Soil mocked. Now you say you don't know. Where's the courage you gave him before? Enough. Koharu shouted coldly, I will bear the consequences of my own wrongdoings, but it's not your turn to show off here. Oh. How do you plan to bear the consequences? I will voluntarily resign from my position as a consultant, retire to the mountains, and never ask about Woodleaf again. Hamura sighed, I will also resign from my position as a consultant. Koharu looked back and said anxiously, Hamura, you don't have to do this because of me. Hamura shook his head slightly, this is my own decision. He could see clearly that after today's matter was exposed, they were bound to suffer a lot of criticism. If they quit now, at least they could save some of their reputation. After saying that, he looked at Bordered Soil calmly, as for your matter, we won't interfere, and I believe that Shimizu Garashi will give us a satisfactory answer. Chapter 455. By the time Garashi returned, the crowd had mostly dispersed. However, the impact of today's incident had only just begun to ferment. Naruto, who everyone placed their hopes on, turned out to be Woodleaf's greatest sin, and Naruto's advisors were also suspected to be in deep trouble. Also, Danzo, who even the enemy looked down on, was able to sit in Naruto's position for 7 years, so there must be something wrong with the other higher-ups. Or rather, who else in Woodleaf's higher-ups were clean? Cemetery of Martyrs. After learning about what happened from others, even Garashi was a little surprised. He did intend to scheme against the two Naruto advisors, wanting to use Danzo's influence to remove them. But he hadn't even started yet. The two of them were already wiped out by Bordered Soil. Since when did Bordered Soil become so strong? Seeing his senpai looking at him, Bordered Soil thought his senpai was angry and couldn't help but sigh. Senpai, you're too kind, that's why you let that group of trash steal your position. Even if you blame me, I won't regret what I did today. Mizuki nodded in agreement. Garashi was too lenient with those people, that's why they had the chance to stir up trouble. From now on, let him, the man who vowed to become the shadow under the wood leaf, clear the obstacles in the darkness for Garashi. Garashi smiled in his mind, but on the surface, he sighed and shook his head, then looked at Tsunade. Senpai, I might have to use the first and second Hokage-sama's bones for an experiment. Tsunade understood what he meant. This was to test whether the Akatsuki had already started the Edo Tensei. So, she just sighed. Since the Edo Tensei is unavoidable, it's better to have it on our side than to let Grandpa and the others be used as a weapon against Woodleaf. Of course, the Edo Tensei couldn't be carried out in front of a large group of people. Everyone went to the back of the mountain and found a relatively secluded place. After preparing the bones, offerings, and formations, Garashi began to form hand seals. The formation flickered as if it was pulling souls from the underworld. However, the light only flickered a few times before completely dimming. Summoning failed. Garashi said with a solemn expression, sure enough, Akatsuki has resurrected the two of you through Edo Tensei. Tsunade stomped hard, the ground cracked, and the cracks spread quickly like a spider web. Damn Akatsuki! Garashi said in a deep voice, we must convey the information of Edo Tensei to the other shinobi villages as soon as possible. Sand Crypsis, Kazakage Building. Kazakage-sama, according to our investigation, the people of Akatsuki organization may still be in the Rain Country. Raza looked up at Marky who was reporting. Who asked you to investigate their whereabouts? Marky was taken aback. Gaara was captured by them. Don't we need to find out more information to rescue him? Raza's tone was indifferent. We can't let the village's precious combat power be damaged for a single Jinchuriki. Kazakage-sama, you. Marky looked at Raza in shock. He knew that although the Kazakage-sama was strict with Gaara, he actually cared about Gaara very much in his heart. Not to mention, he vaguely heard some gossip. The Kazakage-sama worked very late these days and slept directly in the office when he was tired. But in fact, it was because he didn't dare to go home. At this moment, Pakura came in and reported, "Kazakage-sama, there's news from Woodleaf. They hope you can log into the dream world." Log into the dream world. Raza was a little puzzled, but he still reluctantly pulled himself together. I see. Rock Crypsis. Anoki had woken up, but when he woke up, he saw a devastated Rock Crypsis. Compared with other shinobi villages, Rock Crypsis, which was attacked twice in a row, obviously suffered more losses. Such a change made Anoki, who had always refused to admit his old age, hunch his back a little. At this moment, Kitsuchi looked at his father in shock and asked, "What? The whole village migrated to Woodleaf?" Anoki said calmly, "You don't have to repeat it, I'm not deaf." "But this is really amazing." Kitsuchi shook his head, his eyes full of disbelief. Alliance is not something that can be done with words, it has to be proven with actual actions. Anoki said. "But the dignity of Rock Crypsis." A jonin hesitated and asked. "The dignity of Rock Crypsis has been shattered by the Akatsuki's 2 attacks, now we have to consider survival." Anoki said firmly. Kitsuchi whispered, "It's already to this extent? It will only be more serious than you think." Anoki was about to say something when a jonin suddenly came in. "Tsuchikage-sama, Woodleaf has important information. Dream World." As soon as Empress Shomei logged in, she was sent to a certain space by an irresistible force. Surrounded by endless stars, a long table was placed in the middle, and many people were already sitting at the table. For example, Garashi, and the Kage and guards of various villages. In addition to these acquaintances, there were many unfamiliar faces in the space, most of them were more reserved, but there was a faint excitement in their expressions. "What the hell is this?" Ao, who came in before her, introduced with a shocked expression. "This is a room built by Garashi-sama through the dream world. It can gather people from all over the world." Garashi was not arrogant and took the initiative to explain. "Because the 5 Kage conference was used by the enemy, I focused on solving the problem of cross-regional communication in the dream world." Although others had heard similar words, no matter how many times they heard it, their hearts were incomparably shocked. Cross-regional communication like this without space restrictions is really amazing. After waiting for a while, almost all the people arrived. Garashi said, "Today, I invited you mainly to share some information with you." With that, Garashi looked at a person in the seat. "Bordered soil, you tell them." "Bordered soil?" "Uchiha bordered soil." Everyone's expression changed, and they also roughly knew what happened in Woodleaf. A frowned and asked, "Brother Garashi, he is..." Garashi shook his head slightly. "Don't be impatient, listen to him first." Obito's expression was neither sad nor happy as he told Shueisha the information he had told him before. However, they obviously didn't have as much patience as Garashi. When he heard that it was him who proposed to capture Jinchuriki and even extract the tailed beasts in their bodies, finally couldn't help it and stood up. However, someone was faster than him. Raza rushed up and punched him, knocking him to the ground. "You bastard, Gara is only 7 years old." Bordered soil didn't resist, but silently endured. After being punched more than a dozen times in a row, he calmly said, "It takes 3 days for the Akatsuki to extract a tailed beast, 6 tailed beasts is 18 days, and without me and Black Zetsu, the progress will be slowed down. The Akatsuki can't waste more than 20 days to extract tailed beasts at this critical moment. Your son should still be safe." Chapter 456. Hearing Bordered Soil say that Gara won't die, Raza's hand movements finally stopped. However, he didn't give Bordered Soil a good look. He threw Bordered Soil to the ground and returned to his seat. Bordered Soil didn't think much of it. He stood up as if nothing had happened, returned to his seat, and continued, "Although capturing Jinchuriki to summon the Jubi was Madara's plan, the Akatsuki's people are now in a difficult situation, and they have completed 2/3 of the progress. There is no reason for them to give up at this time. Once they summon the Jubi, they can easily defeat us with its power. Everyone only felt that they had nowhere to complain. You ambitious people are messing around, but why don't you clean up the mess? Also, it's really bad luck for Madara to choose you as his executor. Trying to calm down the desire to complain, I asked, is the Jubi really as powerful as you say? Even if it is several times stronger than the Kyubi, with the strength of Garashi-san, you can easily suppress it, right? The rest of the people nodded in agreement. The Kyubi is so powerful, but isn't he the same as a dog in front of Garashi? In the myths and legends, the Sage of the Six Paths saved the world. Since he saved the world, there must be a crisis of destroying the world, and this crisis comes from the Jubi. Bordered Soil emphasized, it can destroy the world. Now you know how powerful it is, right? However, everyone had a calm expression on their faces. Destroying the world, they can hear this more than a dozen times a year. Especially Inoki, the disdain in his eyes overflowed. The box of bliss was said to be the artifact of the Sage of the Six Paths, and it had the power to destroy the world. But what was the result? On the day it was unsealed, it was scared away by Shimizu Garashi. So, this kind of words can't be taken lightly. How can the world be destroyed so easily? Seeing that everyone didn't believe him at all, Bordered Soil blinked sincerely. The Jubi is really strong, believe me. Everyone looked perfunctory. Got it, got it. At this moment, a bell-like voice sounded. Everyone, what he said is true. We are facing the crisis of the world's destruction. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice. The person who spoke was a beautiful woman who looked dignified and holy. You are? I asked. This is Her Excellency the Witch from the Land of Demons. She has the ability of prophecy. Garashi took the initiative to introduce her. Country of Demons. Empress Shomi, I suddenly understood. Were those unfamiliar faces from other small countries? Which? Inoki pondered and said, I've also heard about this. I heard that the Miko of the Land of Demons has the ability of prophecy. Raza asked thoughtfully, Your Excellency, did you foresee something? Maitreya nodded worriedly. I saw the terrible scene of everything withering and the world changing. The whole world was falling under the ravages of the Ten Tails. No one spoke, but their eyes were filled with suspicion. Amiko, who they had never heard of before, suddenly stood up and said that she foretold the end of the world. Even if Tsuchikage and Garashi endorsed her, it was still difficult to believe her. Maitreya sighed. She knew that this would be the result. Moreover, this was not the first time such an encounter happened. 8 years ago, at the peace ceremony of the Third World War, she found the 5 Kages at that time and explained the disaster she predicted to them. However, no one believed her, and they didn't even want to verify it. Sure enough, a powerful and humble person like Garashi-sama is just an exception. At this time, Garashi said, the dream world is located in the spiritual dimension. Maybe I can try to project the picture that Your Excellency predicted. It's just that this process may be peeking into the heart, and I need Your Excellency's consent. Peeking into the heart. Maitreya's face was slightly red, and then she said generously, I have no problem, Garashi-sama, you don't have to worry. Sorry for the offense. Garashi said, and with a light tap of his finger, several scenes were projected in front of him. On the dry and dead earth, a humanoid monster like a dead tree trampled wantonly, and super-large-scale Baijidama was shot from its mouth at will, easily erasing a country from the map. Tens of thousands of ninjas formed a coalition army and worked together, but it was useless. No matter how many ninjas there were, they were not the opponent of that monster. The coalition army was defeated easily. In the end, the whole world was quiet. A giant tree stood on the ground, and all life was silent, hanging on the tree like a cocoon. Looking at this horrible scene, Kitsuchi asked in a hoarse voice, This is our future? The leaders of the small countries were also frightened. They originally had the idea that, if the sky falls, there will be tall people to hold it up, and sit and watch the 5 great ninja villages and the Akatsuki fight each other. But judging from the scenes of the prophecy, the Jubi was completely indiscriminate. The 5 great ninja villages could at least resist a little, but they were wiped out without even making a sound. The demon disaster is not over yet, and the end of the world is coming? What should we do? What the hell should we do? Looking at their panicked appearance, Garashi chuckled. The prophecy is a good excuse. In fact, even Maitreya herself didn't know that the scenes of her prophecy were made by Garashi through Morio. After all, the Miko and Morio were originally 2 sides of the same coin. As for the content of the prophecy, Garashi slightly modified the plot he saw in his previous life and showed it to her. Anyway, the prophecy should be vague. If she could see the complete picture, it would be wrong. It is because of such a terrible scene that I found Garashi-sama and asked him to convey this prophecy to everyone. Maitreya bit her red lips and said seriously, in the face of such a world-destroying disaster, we must work together. So that's how it is. Everyone suddenly understood and solved the doubts in their hearts. They also felt strange before. How could these people from small countries be invited by Garashi? At this time, Wu-wei suddenly said, Garashi-sama, can you divide the area around Woodleaf City for the Kusanagi village? This kind of request should be made to the daimyo of the Land of Fire. But Wu-wei completely ignored the existence of the daimyo, and the rest of the people didn't find it strange. During the war, the authority of the daimyo is almost infinitely reduced. Therefore, it has always been the 5 Kages convention that determines the structure of the ninja world, not the 5 Great Convention. Garashi pretended to be surprised and asked, Wu-wei, what are you doing? Wu-wei sighed, just dealing with the demon disaster has already made the Kusanagi village anxious, not to mention the Jubi. If we want to survive in this violent era, the Kusanagi village can only pray for protection, but I also know that it is difficult for the Woodleaf to spare extra energy to take care of the Kusanagi village. Even if Garashi agrees, other people in the Woodleaf City won't agree, and the way to make the protection reasonable is to become part of the Woodleaf City. Wu-wei stared at Garashi. So, I want to take the Kusanagi village to join the Woodleaf City. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.